Hello, I'm Zoe.
And I'm Pearl.
And we're going to be your host for tonight's DSA live video. We're going to talk about how Pastor Sunday Adelaja was a father to us, how he influenced our well-being, our lives, how we view the world, and much more. Joining us is our brother, of course, PEREZ Adelaja.
Hi, nice to see you guys.
From all the way, joining us from where are you from? Why are you not with us, PEREZ? Please explain your situation.
I'm in the UK right now. I'm still studying at university, so unfortunately I couldn't be there in person, but I'm really happy to be able to be there on call in order to help and talk about our amazing father.
Yeah, same here. We're very excited to talk about the way Dr. Sunday Adelaja, our father, has influenced us because it's his birthday month, and we definitely want to honor him.
Yes. Okay, so on to our first point, the first slide. DSA as a father. So obviously this is the point, this is the topic of our whole presentation, and he takes the role of the father in the family. The father is the head of the family. He takes care of the family, he provides for the family financially, and he holds them together economically, emotionally, and all the ways. He wraps us together, he leads us, we follow him. We are in his care. And it is obviously a very important role. So we're going to share experiences in which Pastor Sunday Adelaja was a father to us. And maybe there are going to be some personal memories, but it really meant a lot to us, and it wasn't for nothing. So who wants to start, Pearl or PEREZ?
I can start. Indeed, Pastor Sunday Adelaja is our father, and he's been with us from the beginning of life. In the church, in the Bible, in all different cultures and religion, there's often a big emphasis on fatherhood. And I think that having Pastor Sunday as our father has really helped me understand why having a father is so significant in anybody's life. I remember when I was younger, I would often hold grudges against people, and I went to the point to say that nobody loves me except for maybe my dad, and I would complain about this to people, and but not let my parents know that I was saying these things. And then one time, my father invited me to go and congratulate a woman with her birthday, and that woman was one of the people who I had thrown a tantrum in front of and complained about everybody in the world except for my dad about too. So she recollected this incident and told us about her story, where she had grown up basically with no parents and with no friends and with no resources, and she had to grow up fending for herself, eating dirt when she had nothing to eat, and etc. and etc. And she told me to be grateful for my parents and for everything I had. And then as we were returning to our place, my father told me, see, even if you try to hide things, even if you try to deceive, the truth will always come to surface. And you have to actually think about what you say. You have to actually think through what you believe. And he used the situation, because I was kind of mad, to instruct me and to teach me. And I think I learned a very good lesson from the situation that if I had been alone, would probably have also held a grudge about. So that's just one of the many moments where Pastor Sunday Adelaja has been there for me, and he has instructed me as a father figure.
Yes, thank you, Pearl, for sharing that story. As a child, I remember that my dad used to travel a lot, and most of the time we'd be at home and mom would always be there. But even though sometimes dad was always away, it seemed, but he'd always come back, obviously, and he'd always bring presents and let us know that he cares. And even when he was away, I knew that he was there, and I knew that he loved me, and that wherever he was always there for me. And everything he was doing for us, and his love for us was unwavering, no matter what happened in life, no matter if I was bad or if I was good, if he was near or if he was far. His love for us only seemed to grow, and he only seemed to expect more and more from us. He would always make time for us and always share things with us. We were an important part of his life, and to feel important to my father really helped me to value him, and to know my value as a person. From a young age, having a father really had a big influence and effect on me. Even though I already had a loving and caring mother, it really does influence a lot of your and my personality and so many things about us to have two loving parents instead of one, two different people, to show their own different ways of affection and discipline and care. And even though both of our parents traveled a lot, they always let us know that we were in their hearts and we never felt neglected. PEREZ, what would you like to share?
Yep, so growing up, I'm sure Zoe and Pearl can also relate to this. We'd always receive the question of, what is it like to have Sunday Adelaja as your dad? What is it like being the son or daughter of Pastor Bose and Pastor Sunday? And every time we'd come up with something different, but as you get older, you really begin to appreciate the incredible parents that we had, where first of all, it's been incredible that they have been us since birth, because there are so many situations where kids don't even know their parents, where kids only know one of their parents, where they have to grow up with with the mom or only with the dad. For us, our parents were both there from the beginning. I think we all have the pictures of Dad with us praying over us when we were just fresh out of the hospital. Ever since literally day one, he's been praying over us, he's been caring over us, because he understands the importance of proclaiming a revelation upon your child's life. And growing up, I never even knew that the type of dad I had was special, because that was all I knew. Dad was always around, we were always playing together, he was always teaching me, even though he was always busy or not busy, he was always traveling. Whenever he'd come back, he'd always bring a gift, he'd always try to call us every night to tell us good night. And it's really incredible to see the amount of effort he would take in order to spend time with his children, in order to spend time to shape their worldview, and in order to really direct them in the right direction. And for me personally, having him obviously being the only boy, there's always a bit of a difference between a father-son relationship and a father-daughter relationship. So me being the oldest child and the only boy, I always felt like the manly or whatever connection to him, as always being able to try to be tougher than him, trying to emulate him in those ways. And he's really taught me to really provide for people and really be caring, to try to help whoever I can in need, because the way we were brought up is that if you see someone in need, try to help them as much as you can. And he really helped us to really understand that. He really sowed those seeds in us from early. And just growing up, getting outside of the house, seeing people in university, and seeing people who come from different situations from us, is really incredible to see how much time and effort Dad put into us to make sure that we grew up to be who we are and in the position that we are right now.
Thank you, PEREZ.
Thank you, PEREZ.
Obviously, like PEREZ said, there is a great difference between the relationship between a father-daughter and a son-father relationship. So I'm really glad that we heard your experience, because we never really heard it, even though we're siblings.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like PEREZ mentioned, our father has been praying for us since day one. And even before we were born, he told us that he would go into hours and hours to pray for us, to pray over us, to make sure that our futures would come out well, to turn out well. And I just am very, very honored to live with a father who values me so much. Ever since Bible time, there has been fatherlessness in the world, and we see today definitely there's a lot of broken families and fatherlessness in the world. And we are very privileged to have not just a father, but a father who would lay down his life for us.
We would all rely on our father very much. He was like our stronghold, our refuge. And he never backed away from the responsibility or the role of the challenge of being our father. He would always be up for the challenge, he would take care of us, he would comfort us, he would provide us, and we never felt anything less than safe and secure and love in his arms. So that's the first point we'd like to talk about. Now we'd like to move on to the next point, which
is you can see on the next slide. But wait.
Okay. Do you have something to say?
No.
No?
I thought we had something to show. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So our next point is about our father being an incredible father despite the fact that he grew up without a father. And we would like to show a video that has a celebrity talking about a similar experience.
You've talked about how important being a dad is to you, and you've been open about the fact that that's partly because you didn't know your father growing up. You want to be the opposite. I was still pretty surprised, I got to tell you, to see your Instagram post from earlier this year. You basically wrote a note to your dad, and you said, you know what, I don't know you, I have no idea who you are, but because of you is part of the reason I am who I am today. The fuel that I use, you not being there, it's part of the reason I grew up to become who I am. What made you decide to go out like that?
I don't know, but I think it's the truth. I think, my whole life growing up, I just kind of always said, why me? Why me? Why didn't my dad want to be around? I feel like I'm a pretty cool kid, I'm a good kid. Why wouldn't he want to be around for me? And then as I got older and kind of had my own family, I started to think, the reason he wasn't there is the reason why I became so strong mentally, so loving to my mother. And I am who I am today because he wasn't there, because I use it as motivation. Everything that I've gained, he has a role in it because I used it.
Have you ever thought, as you've gotten older, maybe what if, should I explore a relationship with him?
Of course, the what if situation has definitely popped in my head, but I think I'm good where I am.
Well, with everything you've got ahead of yourself, basketball, new baby on the way, you're getting to raise your family in Ohio, is there a word or two that comes to mind as you think about what's ahead?
Wow, that's a great question. One word that I could describe what's ahead is faith. I have faith in myself, faith in my family, faith in my community, and Northeast Ohio, the whole state of Ohio. I hold a huge responsibility to myself to understand that me playing the game of basketball is much bigger than dribbling or dunking or making a game with a shot. So the whole word faith is the number one thing I can kind of use for the very near future.
Okay, so
I don't mind talking about this one. So, if anyone who knows me or has seen me in real life knows that I'm actually pretty tall. So, I'm really interested in basketball. And the person who spoke, his name is LeBron James. For people who don't know, he's arguably one of the best players in the world right now. And he also grew up without a father. However, he has an incredible family. He also has 3 children, and many people have made it a point and emphasis to show how he has been able to become such a good leader, such a good father, even though he grew up without one. And just in the video, as he was talking about growing up without a father, it didn't take away anything from him being an incredible father. You can definitely say the same for our father, because even though he didn't know his dad, that had never stopped him from being an incredible father for us. It's impressive, it's almost crazy to think about where he even learned this from, where he got the skills to be an amazing father. But I'd say it was through God that God was able to lead him and show him the right steps in order to be an incredible father. And now, the 3 of us have been fortunate enough to grow up with an incredible father. And so our children will be even more fortunate than us, because we have had the best model ever to grow up with, the best model ever to get these life lessons from. And also that just means that with this addition of fatherhood in our lives, we will be even greater on a different scale, let's say greater in life if you compare it to LeBron, who is very great in basketball even without a father. So with Pastor Sunday Adelaja in our lives, in whichever direction of life that we choose to go in, with all the values and all the principles that he has put into us, we're able to transform our ordinary childhood and let it propel us into an incredible future, just like LeBron James was able to do.
Thank you, PEREZ, for expanding on why you chose that video. It's a very good video for this point. I think we all know, or at least people who have grown up without a parent know, that once you have a childhood like that, you have a choice to either grow from it or to break from it. You can use that as an excuse for every failure and every mess up you have in life. Like, oh, I was disadvantaged from birth, I had a horrible upbringing, this is why I am the way I am. Or you could use this experience to better yourself, to decide that you don't want this to be your life and to have a better future, to reject circumstance and create your own dream, your own reality. And this is what our father did. If you read his book, Olaronwa, you know his history, you know his background, you know his biography, you know how he came to be who he is today. And he wasn't nothing was handed to him on a silver platter, nothing was given to him for free. He had to work for everything. And he had a much different childhood and upbringing than any of us three had. Our parents say multiple times that they worked to give us the childhood that they never had, to give us the opportunities that they never had. They don't want to go back and to let the world dictate where they should be in life. They create their own path. Our father grew up without a father, but he still is a great one. So anyone who was fatherless or motherless have no real excuse to be the same to their future children. Since our father's father was absent, he knows what we need. He knows what he needed at that time. He knows the effect of him not being there emotionally, not only physically, but spiritually, to encourage us, to have someone, to know that someone loves us all the time, to have someone to rely on, to have someone who will always be there for us. He knows how it is to live without all of that, and therefore he puts his all into providing for us what he never had. And in fact, since he didn't have it, he doesn't take it for granted. Therefore, he tries even harder and puts even more emphasis and effort and importance into paying attention to his role and his duty, his God-given role and duty as to being a father to his family, and he doesn't take it lightly. He's very serious about it, and we're grateful to him because of him, because of how he raised us. We are who we are, and we're grateful to be who we are thanks to his influence.
Yes, I know that I can confirm everything that my brother and sister have said. I've always remembered telling children that have come to visit and were nervous to meet my father, telling them, don't worry, because my father loves children. I always remember my father, despite all the things that he had to do, despite all the places that he would have to go, he would never be absent. He would always be there for us. He would always be happy to see us. He would always make time for us. He was always there for us. He was always a great father to us. He was attentive and he was loving, and he gave us everything that we ever needed. And that's just so amazing. That's such a blessing from someone who never had a father. For us to receive all this love, all this acceptance, all this warmth, all this discipline, all this everything from someone who only had one person in their life to give us that. When we have a mother and a father who are both pros at doing that, that's a miracle. That's just proof of how much God has done in his life. That's proof of his name in Yoruba, Olaronwa, that there is God. And I also want to point out that even though my dad was raised by his grandma, he didn't even have the best relationship with his grandma when she was alive. He always has treated my mother with such respect, with such love, and it's just so amazing. And I think that is a very good example of a relationship to follow. I have noticed that over the years, my mother and father have come into more harmony. They have become more of one flesh, and that's because both of them did their best to become like that. I now have a really good example of what a healthy relationship looks like, but it's so amazing that just by the mercy of God, my my father was able to build a relationship like that, because he never was able to see that when he was growing up. When he was our ages, up till my age of 16, he never was able to experience a loving family, a complete family like that, and a healthy mother-father relationship like that. So the fact that he has demonstrated this naturally, not putting on an act for us, but with his sincere love and affection, and with his sincere spiritual fulfillment from God, that he has taken all these things and blessed us with such an amazing, happy family, despite not having experienced that himself, is so amazing. And like Zoe says, it proves that just because life threw you somewhere, just because you were born in a country, just because you were born in a social class, just because you were born in certain conditions, that doesn't mean you can't rise up from those conditions and become something completely the opposite. I think that even Jesus, he was just born as a humble carpenter. Jews were a lower class in the Roman Empire, but he did everything right. He was a sinless person, and he changed the world completely. I think that a lot of us who believe in Jesus, we should aspire to be Christ-like. And I love how our Father, even in the way that he is a father to us, has been very Christ-like, because despite his humble origins, he has been the best father that we could ever have. Like the slide says, like the video said, like LeBron James confirms, he is just a person who is incredible without being a father. Without having a father. Even though he could have taken a negative point of view on not having a father, he learned something from that. And he now not only is a great father to us in the church, he teaches people about how to be good fathers, teaches people about how to treat their kids, how to value their kids. And even in our church, there is a fatherhood institute that the government has recommended people to go to if they want to form a family. All this has originated from one man who never had a father, and that just shows that God is with him and that he's an amazing father.
And with a father like that, it pretty much ensures that we'll be great parents. When he was raising us, all the qualities of how he teaches us is to be good people, and as well to be obviously good parents, and that is obviously a very important part, a very important value for him. Is there anything you'd like to add? Is everything okay?
Yeah, it's amazing how this can be motivation for everyone, that God will be by your side even if humans aren't, because as you know, Dad grew up without one, he grew up without a dad. However, he was still able to go from a hard, let's say, growing up environment in order to the great position that he is right now. That should be motivation for all of us, that no matter what circumstances we are put in, because some circumstances you cannot control, no matter how smart you are, no matter how brave you are, some situations are just out of your control. However, if you believe in God, if you listen to him, he'll be able to take you out of whatever horrible circumstance that you've been put in, and he will uplift you from there into a much better spot. Me and my sisters are testaments of this, because we have grown up very privileged to be amongst my mom and dad in all the blessings that they have taught us, all the gifts, all the clothes that we wear, it's all from them. So this should be a motivation and an incentive for everyone, that they definitely can be a better father or a better mother than they received when they were growing up, and that your kids should also have that same level of gratefulness, that same level of appreciation for you, because you want to motivate them to, even though their parents were great, you want to motivate them to try to even do better for their own kids.
Thank you, PEREZ. Okay, we would like to take this opportunity to let you know that after all of our points and we finish our presentation, if any of you would like to call in, you just have to go to Facebook Messenger and look for Move Agents, and then you might have a chance to ask a question and to get our opinion and answers from it.
Also, we want to let you know that this month, May, is our precious father's birthday month. The 28th of May is his birthday, and so in honor of that, because of that, all of the over 200 books that Pastor Sunday Adelaja has written, there's a book promo. There's a promotional there's a promotional event going on right now that all of them will be discounted. So if you're interested in getting your own book written by our wonderful father, Pastor Sunday Adelaja, please email dsasbooks@gmail.com. DSA'Sbooks@gmail.com.
Okay. So yes, having a father really is useful for all of us, especially during our teenage years. We can get a second opinion, prevent us from making stupid, silly decisions, give us good advice and good upbringing. But I think we've talked enough about that. Let's go to our next point, please. Our next slide. Okay, so we have a video for this one too. It's about how Pastor Sunday Adelaja understands his role as a father.
Why would you think that there are so many problems with father figures, and how come there are so, you could say, little real fathers out there?
Because most of the time, fathers have been taught that their only role or their main roles in life is just to provide food and money for their family. They've not been taught that the most important role of a father and of a man is to copy God, is to look at God and to reflect God in his daily life. You know, the most important role of a man is to be able to know the qualities of God, to be able to know how God functions, how God reasons. And that is best reflected in the life of Jesus Christ and the disciples. And even the bad things that happen in the Bible tells us something about the nature and character of God. So we're supposed to be reading the Bible to discover God, who God is, so that we might be able to, transmit that into our own lives and become like God himself. So if we are able to be taught that that is the primary role and function of any man, things would have been easier. Is that rather than just physical means or providing physical material means to the family. That is secondary, really. The most important thing really is for the man to know who he is.
Again?
Yep. So, as we briefly talked about in the previous section, how God was able to lead him out of his unfortunate situation, growing up without a father, into this amazing situation of him becoming a father. You can see through the video that we just showed that he learned from early that following God, reading the Bible, was the way he was able to better himself. And he understands that his role as a father is not only to simply give us food, make sure we barely have somewhere to sleep, make sure we barely have some clothes, and then after 18 years, just pack us out into university and get us out of the house. He understands that there's way more to being a father, and he understands that the best place in order to learn how to be an incredible father comes from the daily communications you have with God, and also from constant reading of the Bible. I remember Dad always telling us from early that the Bible is the place with the most information you can have about God. And as you can tell through this video and just through his whole life, if you know anything about how much he spends reading the Bible, you will understand why he is so wise and why he's so smart. Because in the Bible, he's able to receive answers for any single problem that he has. I am sure without a doubt that whenever any of his kids had any situations that he didn't know how to solve right away, he simply consulted God, he read his Bible, and he was able to come and provide us with a solution. Us as kids, we didn't realize that there was a whole process behind the wise father that we just knew. We just thought that our father was the best and that there was nothing that he couldn't do. But growing older, we understand that it was because he had such strong faith in God that he wouldn't do anything without a confirmation from God. That was the reason why he has become such an incredible father and such an incredible human being. So if we keep on that pattern of trying to understand God, trying to speak to him, and continuously reading our Bible, that is how we'll be able to be incredible parents. That's how our kids will truly appreciate us, and that's also how you understand that you need to teach your kids not only about the physical world, but also about the spiritual world, that you need to teach them that the Bible, that Christianity, you need to instill those Christian values in them from early, so that whenever they do get out from under your roof, they will know how to navigate themselves in the world. And that doesn't come simply by being a pastor's kid and going to church and playing around with Sunday school. No, that comes from your parents taking their time to make sure you really understand these Christian values. And I can say for PEREZ that our dad did that with us.
Yes, thank you, PEREZ.
Thank you, PEREZ, so much.
In the video, Dad, our father, described being a father, like compared it to, he said it's imitating God, looking at God and trying to imitate it. And in the Bible, God compares to himself as a father many times. We know him as God the Father. So everything that our Father does, he gives 110% into. And if we think like of God in general, the God that we believe in, he represents so much for us. He is our provider, he is our comfort, he is the Prince of Peace, and he blesses those who blesses us. He blesses us, he takes care of our problems for us. We have faith in him, we rely on him. In the Bible it says we have to have faith like a child. A child doesn't really question their parents when they promised something to them. They said, oh, Father said so, so it will happen, you know? And so for us as children, we looked at our Father, like we had faith at him because we were like a child, since we were actually children. We trusted him in everything he said, and he had never let us down, so we had no reason to doubt him. He always provided us, he kept us safe, and he took his job very seriously, and we always knew how important we were to him, and how important it was to him that we would be good children. Not only, and it was for a really great, bigger purpose that maybe we couldn't understand at that age, but we're so glad that we were raised the way we were, and that we are turning out the way we are. Pearl, do you have anything to say?
Yeah. Like my brilliant brother and sister pointed out, I think it's really awesome to note that our Father understands his role as a father because he gets his inspiration primarily from our Father in heaven, our Heavenly Father. And I think that's so amazing to understand. Like, we can read so much in the Bible about God, how he's created the heavens, he's created all the animals, he's created the pastures under our feet, the sky above our heads, and he's put us in the dominion of all of this. He's made us just a little bit lower than the angels. That's Psalm 8. And he is love, and he is justice at the same time, and he is just so vast, and there's no describing him completely with words. And to think that even though there's so many things in this world that pull a human away, there's so many alternative philosophies, so many alternative beliefs, so many alternative paths a person's life could take, especially with somebody who's like our Father. People have called Nigeria such horrible things. They say it's like a place without civilization, a horrible place. Like they refer to it as if it's somewhere where no life can survive. And so, like ZOE said before, he could have used that as an excuse. Like, I was poor, I didn't have shoes till I was 12, I lived in a tiny village in Nigeria, all of this. No, he got connected to a source from heaven. He got connected out of all the things that he could have done, and he could have even believed in God but not tried to improve himself. Out of all the things he could have done, decided to base his life completely on the Word of God, and he decided to love God with all his strength, mind, soul, and heart. And you can see that in every single sphere of his life. He decided to make his will synonymous with God's will, and he fathered us with that mentality, with that will in him. And I just am so grateful for that, because in our raising, in our upbringing, we didn't just get what Dr. Sunday Adelaja could give us. We got the blessings from God, because he is a person who is a friend of God, a witness of God, a child of him, who is connected to him. And now he has passed on the blessing that he got from God to us, to my brother, to my sister, and to myself. And it's not everybody who can do this. Even with the huge Christian population in the world, it's not everybody who has such a special connection to God. It's not everybody who's able to lay down their flesh, lay down their everything in order to serve God. And our Father is the person who did that, and fathered us, having have done that. And we now have grown up in this environment, and I hope that we also can be people who completely put our will aside to be filled with Christ's will, to fulfill the Great Commission, to grow as fruits of the Spirit, and that we also can be wonderful parents, not just physically, but spiritually. That we can also teach people the way our Father does. That we can also make disciples of all nations.
Yes. As PEREZ mentioned, to our Father, being a father wasn't just making sure that we have clothes and food and a house to live in and to stay in. It was more than just doing the bare minimum. It wasn't just like, oh, we're married, oh, we have kids, because we have to take care of them too, so they're our flesh and blood. We are his legacy, and we are a testament to everything that our Father has been through and everything that he can achieve now. He can give us so much, even though when he was born, he had not as much as we do. He makes sure that we can be the best that we can be, and he tries his best to give us all that he thinks we need for life. Even like later in life or currently or anything that we've done before that needs some reflection. Like I said before, our Father takes this fathering aspect of his life and every other aspect of his life very seriously. He connects everything in his life to God. And to him, if he was a father, it's something that God decided for him to be a father. If it's God's will, then he will excel at it. He will try his best to prevail and not to let God down, and to be a testament to all fathers, to all Christian fathers. The reason that our Father was excelled as a father wasn't because necessarily God was on his side, necessarily, or because he was just married to the right woman and we were just perfect kids. He put effort into it because this was important to him. We really talked about how he was fatherless himself, so there was that. But also he had to make sure that he would kind of give his children the opposite experience in that sense that he had when he was in our shoes. Our father, as I mentioned before, traveled a lot. But even when he was gone, we could feel his love and his care, and we knew that he was always there for us. It's not everyone feels safe and secure and loved when their parents are away. It's like with God. We don't always feel God, but we know that he's there, and we know that he loves us. It must have taken a significant amount of effort and time and energy for us to know that he's there for us so much that even when he's not around, we can feel his love and know that he's looking out for us and taking care of us. Being a parent is very complicated and it's hard. It's not an easy process. For Christians and non-Christians, people read books and write books about it. They go to conferences. It's not something that's a given. It's not something you can do with your eyes closed. But our Father excelled at it, and as mentioned before, even though he had no father, he leads courses on it and had written books about it. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, but he's still known as the best father in the world. And again, even though he was fatherless, he looked at God as an example and how he was in his life, because that was pretty much the only real father he had. And he tried to emulate God, who was the best and greatest being in the whole entire existence. And I think we're so grateful to have him as a father, have a father who takes his role as a father so seriously, rather than just to do the bare minimum and leave. Yes?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just the thing that Zoe was saying, I agree with it so much. Daddy, our Father, he doesn't just look at being a father as yes, he is very responsible for us. And that responsibility and the seriousness with which he has always regarded his children That's what we are so grateful for. That's why we were able to turn out and be so happy with our family and so happy with our lives and so confident and in our future and so grateful to God. But also I know that in his relationship with us, it was not just something that he jumped into. Obviously, like my sister said already, fatherhood isn't something that you can know how to do exactly. All the books that are written on it, all the courses that you go through on it, it won't tell you exactly how your child acts like, what your child wants, how to read one's mind. It won't tell you that. And yet, our father still went that extra mile. Not only did he pray and pray and pray long before he met his wife, long before we were conceived or born, he also did all this research, he did all this self-education, he did all this reading, he did all this watching, because for him, it was like one of his important goals. It was part of him, because our father lives for his goals. He knows what he wants. So for him, fatherhood isn't just something that he was stumbled into, now he has to do it. It isn't a fluke for him. He is a dedicated and devoted person. I think that one of my siblings mentioned it. He puts 110% into everything he does. And even in fatherhood, before we were even conceived, before we were anywhere near being born, he was already putting his 110% in. And even after we were born, he was always finding new ways to reach us, new ways to teach us, new ways to build on us. New situations arose, and he dealt with each one, teaching us more and more and more with every situation. And I just want to highlight with this soliloquy of mine that my father does not take fatherhood lightly. That's just how much of a devoted and serious and goal-oriented and person he is. And that's the mentality of a successful person he has, because no one can succeed without having tenacity, without having perseverance, without having, he even wrote a book like this, an obsession with what they want to succeed in. And I'm not saying that our father has an obsession with us. I'm saying that he didn't leave any stone unturned in becoming a father. He did his absolute best and even more. And we can see the results of that. And we're very grateful for that. And I think that our father definitely should get due credit for that.
Okay. Is there anything else anybody else wants to add, or can we move on to the next point?
Oh yeah, I'll just quickly add about how our father, because he pursues excellence in every field of his life, this is why he has been able to become such an excellent father, and that he doesn't take anything lightly, but he goes the extra 20 miles in every single thing that he does. And you can tell it through fatherhood, because all of us have so many stories about what an incredible father that he has been. And I just think it's a very good lesson that everyone can take, because if we pursue excellence and if we have someone in heaven who is teaching us, who is leading us with our steps, how can we not succeed? How can we not at least be close to succeeding? Because if you always have such a high bar for yourself, then you're able to excel. And that's something that he has been teaching us since the very beginning, that we can all become great, that we can all become the best at whatever we do. And that's something that you really need to instill into a child. You shouldn't be like dampering their dreams. You shouldn't be telling them that nothing is unrealistic, but you should be feeding them and filling them with that strength and desire in order to achieve something incredible in life. And that's something that I know for certain that he has done for us, because I know a few years back on another one of his birthdays, I said the greatest gift that he has given me is the belief that I can be great. And I'm sure that applies for my sisters as well. And it applies for everyone who has even been around him, that he's able to motivate you and inspire you to become the best version of yourself. And that's something that's not easy to do. It's something that can easily be taken for granted. But it's something that is very important, something that every child needs to hear growing up. even adult as well, because that's why he's able to inspire so many adults who have thought that they have already accomplished everything in life. Then they realize that there's so much more they want to do that was suppressed from them earlier on. So it's something that I think shouldn't go underrated, something that shouldn't be underappreciated, and something that I think everyone needs to know in life.
Thank you, Perez.
Yes, thank you so much, Perez. I can definitely confirm that our Father has always inspired us to pursue our talents in order to improve ourselves, in order to make ourselves better, to be inspired, to go with the extra mile, to go into the world that nobody else saw. I mean, you can do anything on a surface level, or you can go deeper. And our Father has always encouraged us to go deeper. He's always pointed out what we're good at and told us, you keep going. You'll become the greatest in this. You are the greatest in this. And I'm so grateful to our Father for always building on that, for always giving us that mentality. Because not everybody has the chance to hear consistently that they will definitely achieve greatness. And we have grown up in that environment. And we know that now anything we put our minds to, we can definitely do it. Anything that we go the extra mile in, as long as we try hard enough, as long as we really want to do it, we can definitely do it. And that is all thanks to our Father and our Mother, of course, and I'm so grateful for them.
Yes, we're going to talk a little bit more about how our Father's principles has affected us a little later during this presentation. But I would also like to say that our Father and us, the results of his raising, and of course our mothers too, can be like a testament and an example that anyone, no matter where they came from, can grow up and even not just wait, just be where they are and be great and control their lives, control their destinies. I'd like to end with that note. Now let's please move on to the next slide and talk about the next points. Always spend quality time with us, even though he was incredibly busy. This is what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes, and we have a video for this as well.
What do you do with a child who is not taking school or their education seriously and is probably going to fail in their last year at school for the second time?
What they're supposed to do is for the father or the mother to always make sure they spend time with that kid, to sit down with him to do all his assignments.
Okay.
So if they cannot afford to have a teacher or extra classes, then I didn't know this is not what we were used to in Africa.
Right.
But in America and in Europe maybe, but mostly in America, where parents cannot afford to get a teacher to begin to give extra classes to their children. Almost in every family, I mean, I'm talking about average family, middle class family, not poor families, but middle class and upper class family, it is actually, it's like it is just regular daily routine for parents to sit down with the kids and do classes with them, do assignments with them. It's just the regular thing. Now, but back at home, it's not something that I used to see when I was growing up in Africa, that parents would sit down. Parents are busy. And that is still what the lower class people do in Africa, not just Africa, in America, in Europe also, and the migrants, the Africans that are migrants, they are too busy. So they don't sit down with that. They want the kids. They just say, oh, go and do your assignment. But the middle class people, they sit down, even if the baby is disciplined, even if the child is good, it's required. It's a required thing. And in some part of America, they also have what they call homeschooling. So in those families where they have homeschooling, actually, one of the parents will sit at home and do the whole school curriculum with the child. I mean, the mother or the father will be the one to take the child throughout all the classes. So that is part of parenting. So if you are not ready to do that as a parent, then you are not ready to have a child. In our family, that's what we do. we've got, you know, no matter how tired we are, especially my wife, no matter how tired or how busy, we sit down every day with every child, go through their assignments, go through their own work with them, especially since they are studying in American schools. So, and we don't have Americans here, we don't have English speakers here, so we have to do it ourselves. And that's what we've been doing from kindergarten.
Till now.
Yeah, till now.
Wow. Interesting. Wow, that's good.
So you don't put the responsibility on board the child.
Okay.
Not every child will be responsible enough to do the assignments and to be serious immediately. You've got to take them by the hand and teach them to know how to be responsible.
So that video was just one example of what reasons why parents should spend time with their children. I believe I want to start talking about this point, so after me, any of you could start over, pick up. But even outside of school situations, even when our father would travel a lot, even before we moved to the house that we're in when I was younger, like that was before I was 8 years old, our father would call us to read the Bible with him, to pray with him. When he was watching TV, we would join him and play with him then as well. He always made himself available to spend time with us, and it wasn't always about something serious, and it definitely wasn't always about just fun things. There was always discipline, but there was also always love and playfulness. And that is a consistent thing throughout the years, regardless of the changes. When we moved to this house, I remember there was more frequent teachings, maybe not directly from the Bible, but from sermons or articles and lectures that other people have written about more specific topics, like about honesty, and is there such a thing as being too honest, or what is like deceit or is misleading and lying, and how they're to build our character, to build our values, to build our principles. And then a couple years later, after he found out that all of us have some free time because a certain assignment was relieved from us, he said, okay, now instead of that, come to me and we'll just spend some quality time together. And there was no specific goal or points of that time except to spend time together. We could talk about anything, ask questions about anything. It was important for him to build a relationship we could ask him any questions and talk to him about anything, so that we would be comfortable with him, we could trust him, so that we wouldn't keep our mouths silent, we wouldn't keep our mouths shut, and we wouldn't be too shy or embarrassed or not close enough to talk about different topics. So spending time with his children was definitely a very important aspect to our father, and it definitely helped all of us. Of course, people who are raised with both parents are raised with both parents, but when you spend time one-on-one, you form your own personal connection with the parent, and you understand them better on a different level. You understand their values, what's important to them, and they start to see you better, and they know how to reach you better, what words to use, what examples to use, what will affect you more, what's more important to you. So I would say that spending time with your child, regardless of the points or the reason or the goal, is something that he put a lot of priority on, and is something that has had a great influence and effect on our lives that we're very grateful for. I think Pearl wants to say something.
Yeah. So this point that we're discussing is that Pastor Sunday Adelaja, our father, always spends quality time with his children. And that is undeniably true. Ever since I was small, I can always remember that he was always ready to entertain us somehow, or to have very important and serious talks with us. Let me just give you some examples. We have moved in our lives before, but I remember in both houses, one of the best things that I ever enjoyed when I was younger was going to our father while he was sitting on the couch or on some type of soft chair, and getting on behind him, getting on the back of the couch, and he would just grab us by the hand and roll us down him. So he would help us do a somersault. I just felt like I was just the happiest child in the world right now. at that moment. You know how on YouTube or on social media they will have these videos of top 10 amazing amusement park rides that you should try right now. I felt like that was number one, the most amusing and amazing thing one could ever go through. I was having so much fun, and I never thought about then how hard it must have been to have 2 children and to continually be rolling them down your own children. I can't count. No, to have 3 children and continually be rolling them down your body, holding them tight so that they don't fall, and like we never had any accidents with that as far as I remember. And so he was trying really hard for us. I mean, I never thought about that as a kid. I was just having so much fun. But Daddy was purposely doing that for us so that we could be happy, so that we could know that we were loved, and that was just one of the most amazing things that I loved as a child. Even if you ask some of our nannies, they always tell us how they remember coming in and just being so surprised to see us just rolling around playing with our father like that. But that wasn't the only things that we did with our father, because our father is really dead set on giving us a balanced upbringing. I remember that there would be times where every evening he'd call us and talk about different things. And all these things were really cool. There were educational things, there were principles that we needed for life, but unlike some of the teachers you had in school for sure, he didn't just drone on. He didn't lecture on and be like, oh yes, the Pythagorean theorem is this and this and this, and you're trying not to fall asleep. I mean, I didn't have any math teachers like that, no offense to you guys. But he made things that were really important to life. He made things that some people live in life, some people live to the age of 80 and they don't realize that, they don't know that. He made these very important and wise insights seem simple for us, and he taught them to us consistently. I'm telling you, this knowledge, he has written books around it already, but I'm saying that he could have made so much money off that, he could have made so much profit of that, he could have hogged it to himself and released it in small pieces, just lived in a castle and say, okay, commoners should come to me if they want to know how to be successful, and written his information on small little scrolls and sold them each for a lot of money. But instead, he told this to us, who are little children, who he can't be guaranteed are paying attention. And I remember a lot of the things that he taught us. He also told us to recite what he taught us after the lesson. And that helped us, of course, develop our memory and develop our retention and develop how to take apart a question. I remember that he would teach us about how the state of the world right now. Like we read an article that said how we got to this whatever world. How, right now a lot of people have rejected God, but they also aren't hyper-scientific people who believe that the answer to everything can be found in the physics books. So most people, when it comes to their worldview, they say whatever. Or there's actually a term for that. They call it none. They're not affiliated with anything. It's just whatever. And how we as Christians respond to that. I mean, I don't know. I was so small back then. I was like in elementary school. And these are such important questions. This is like worldview, religious affiliation, geopolitical, and the ideological shifts throughout history. He was teaching that to us, and it was so easy to understand. And I remember it till now. I remember I asked him, what's the best way to save people? What's the best way to reach them with the gospel? And I was like 8 or something then. I mean, he had taught us, and he was asking us if we had any questions, and that was my question. And he said, everybody has a problem. So if you are solving people's problems, then they will know that you aren't just trying to rip them off, you aren't trying to scam them, you aren't coming there with your own selfish desires, that you're actually, that what you come from is probably legitimate. And that the best way to reach someone to the gospel is to find out what is their problem and solve them. Because, we can do all things through Christ. Even in that passage, Paul was talking about his problems and how he was able to endure all of them because of Christ. So obviously, all the problems of the people in the world, we can also solve them through Christ and reach them through that. By solving them. And of course, I think that is why charity is an important concept in Christianity and in other religions as well, but I think that it's very important to us. And I learned that in elementary school from my father, because we were sitting on the couch discussing the value of the gospel and how to reach people with them. And you know, it wasn't just 2 times that he taught us. He would gather us together every evening, and we would talk about these things. He would read to us his revelations from God that he called Rima. I don't know the right way to say it, but it was written that way. And and that really helped us. That really shaped us. And just think about all the time that he took to take this very important information and to make it accessible to children like us. I think that shows that he really was spending quality time with us. He wasn't just fooling around with us. Everything he did went into forming us and shaping us. And I'm so grateful for the influence that he has had on us. And I think that my brothers and sisters can confirm, right?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
But I think it's PEREZ's turn to talk. Are you not done?
It's okay. PEREZ should talk.
Well, there's not much to add, I guess, after that. But that just proves how important it was that he spent that time with us as kids, and how much kids actually appreciate quality time with their parents. And if you remember from the video, he was talking about how we went to an American school, meaning that we went to school with people from different nationalities than we're at home. We were the only Nigerians at the school. So our parents had to see that, and they had to slightly adapt their parenting style, because they couldn't teach us exactly the same way that they were taught growing up. And that's just an example showing to their awareness, to their intellect, because they had to, because it's hard to change from what you know. It's hard to change from what, I guess in their case, that they had been basically trained for about 20 years. It's hard to just simply get out of that system. And it was really incredible looking back, seeing how different their parenting style was from a classic Nigerian home. And I know that we were all very, very grateful and appreciative of it. And just because it takes human effort in order to change. It takes human effort to really interact with humans, with people. And it really warms our hearts that we know how much time they diverted towards us, that how much of an importance we were into their lives. Because like Pro was talking about, we'd be able to, anytime we'd see your dad, probably he was trying to do work or he was trying to catch up on the news, we'd see no reason not to go and, you can say, bother him or go and play with him. So that just shows that he was always open towards us. No such thing of being scared in order to approach our dad. And just this quality time that you wish you could have more of. But it's really incredible because that we had so much time and it still didn't seem like enough. That just shows how incredible that relationship is. And it just goes to show that we really need to try to do the same with our children, that we may think that it won't have any impact in their lives, but we have no idea what they're going to remember. Our memory is not the same as other people's memory. Something that we might do in an afterthought, just spend 2 minutes with someone, may impact them for the rest of their lives. That's something that we should all take for ourselves, that we can all use it not only for our kids, but just for friends, for colleagues. Never be scared to spend your time in order to build a relationship, to help someone, to cultivate something, because you never know how it's going to impact you or how it's going to impact them later on in the future. So that's something that I know we will all take with us and that we will all continue to take seriously.
Couldn't have said it better.
Input.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Yes, I even remember. Okay, I even remember a story from when I was little. Right now, on YouTube, there has been a scandal, maybe a year back, where YouTubers released an app for kids. You know, only child-friendly content and stuff. But some people knew that YouTube was run by an algorithm, by coding. basically by a program and not by actual humans. So if they use the right words in their title, they use the right tags in their video, they could upload all types of nonsense, all types of content that is not child-friendly, and it could slip through the censors because of the title, because of the tags. And I know so many stories of children who have just watched ridiculous things on an app that's supposed to be for children because of that. And I just remembered something from my childhood when I was just watching stuff on YouTube. Maybe I was 7 years old. Maybe I was 7 years old, and I was just watching whatever, and my dad came in and asked, "Hey, what are you watching?" So I showed it to him, and he said, "Okay, you're not allowed to watch this again." I just think that it's so interesting that so many children don't even have parents that pay so much attention to them that they notice if they're watching something inappropriate, or they notice that they're watching something bad. So many little children have actually gotten scared or traumatized by horrible things that they've seen on sites that are supposed to be child-friendly. And I hadn't even seen something that horrible, just something that you could say R16 maybe. But I was 7, so I shouldn't have been watching it. And even though, like, my father was like in the next room, like he was like far away, but he came and noticed, and he told me, "Okay, don't watch this again." And like, I really know now. I mean, I went back and read reviews of it and stuff. I really know that, it didn't have the best content for a 7-year-old to be watching. And just think about all the attention that we've been given. That's just a small example, and we've already given the bigger examples of what Dad has done for us. Dad is always spending quality time with us, even when we think that their intervention is unnecessary, or that we know what we're doing. He's still watching over us, and that's very precious to me as his child.
Okay, thank you very much for your input as well. I'll have something to add, but first we'd like to remind you that our father Darius is having his birthday discount for all his books, because this is the month of May, this birthday month. And if you want in on it, you just have to go to the email DSA'S
So if you want to if you want us to hear your voice and to hear your opinions on Dr. Sunday Adelaja as a father, or on what we have said today, then after we are done, you can call in and be a part of this program if you just find on Facebook Messenger Move Agents. That's MOVEAGENTS.
Good job. Okay. I would also like to put emphasis on the fact that a lot of the times that he would call us over or come to us, it would be after he was doing a meeting. It was during his free time, during his time of rest. And sometimes we wouldn't even see in his eyes that he was tired, or he would be talking more slowly, but he would make it a point to always give time to us. Even if we would not come to him, or we would maybe forget, he would call us over or come to us and hold a meeting with us, spend some time with us, whether it was something important or just something more easygoing. It was very important for us to spend time with him. He really values us and treasures us.
Yes. Are you done?
Yes.
And what Zoe said jogged my memory, because we've talked about how Daddy was always trying to impart useful information to us, how he always called himself to us and taught us useful things, taught us life lessons. And we talked about how he always made us believe that we could be great, that we could be something more than what we are now, that we could become the best versions of ourselves. And that reminds me of all the videos that he used to show us. Even recently, he showed us one of these videos. And these videos were of children younger than us or our age, and how they had achieved amazing success. I mean, some of these were especially special to me because one of them was of a poet, also from Africa like me. She was she was just a tween, not even a teenager yet, and she had performed on some Africa's Got Talent show. She wrote her own poetry. She performed a poem, like a spoken word poem, and not just reading it. She performed it. Yes, she posed. She went from this corner of the stage to that corner of the stage. I even remember part of what she was talking about even after watching the video once, because she was performing it so dynamically. She was talking about the problems of the world, the problems of Africa specifically, and she was talking about people dishonoring their parents, and even parents raising their hands against their children, etc. And It was so amazing. Even the judge said, "This was so amazing. I would also like to hear if you wrote your own poetry." And she's like, "Yes, I do." She was already ready for that. She was so talented. And it wasn't just one child that we watched about. There was one child, I think we even watched his video at the HMT for youth or for foreigners, how he designed a windmill in his village. And he was in an African village. He wasn't an engineer. He didn't have an education in that. What he did is that he went to the library. He found a book about windmills. And out of wood, out of raw materials, he made himself one. And he made several that could actually power the village. And then I remember watching about a 9-year-old girl who had already made like 2 documentaries. Being 9 years old, and she had aspirations to become like the president of the United States, and it was just so amazing. He didn't just say that, "Hey kids, you can become great. Hey kids, you can become successful." He showed us all these amazing examples of children who had already, in their young age, just used all the opportunities about them and around them, and created something, added value to the world. And he made us analyze these videos and say, okay, how can you do this? What have you learned from this? And I just want to highlight that to show how serious Dr. Sunday Adelaja was about bringing us up not to be average children, not to be ordinary children, not to make the cutoff mark, but to be exceptional children, to even surpass him. He's always told me that, "Oh, soon you'll write enough books to surpass me." He's always told ZOE that she has a future on the stage. The same thing about PEREZ. He's always told us that we have great futures. He's always encouraged that in any way, not just with words, not just with his actions that show a person how to be successful, but also when in his free time, when he was just talking with us, he would always encourage us. Just look at all the different ways he's encouraged us, subconsciously, consciously, directly, indirectly. There's so much evidence that has put into our hearts that we can succeed. Meanwhile, other children grow up being told that they're failures or being told that they have no chance. We have grown up with the exact opposite, to being told that we have every chance, that there are so many people who have already succeeded being younger than us, being in different situations than us. So why can't we? And that we can.
Yes, thank you, Pearl. I would like to add that girl who wrote a poem actually won the Whatever's Got Talents of that year. And the boy who made the windmill, there's a Netflix documentary series coming out about him.
Probably a TED Talk as well, I think there's about him.
Yeah, so we can do anything, kids. But parenting and our environment does have an influence on the people that we become. The girl probably wouldn't have auditioned for the Got Talent show if her parents weren't supportive of it. And if everybody had told the boy, like, "Oh, you're crazy, you can't do a windmill," they probably did, but it was a chance to help their land because they were in a drought. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they were too opposed of it. Even if they said some things, they're trying to be rational and logical, but still probably had hope in their hearts. And I'm sure that when he did the windmill, they were like, "I knew you could do it. I had faith in you. I saw it in your eyes." Okay. Does PEREZ have anything to add, or is it all good? We can move on. I can't hear you. You're mute.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, we can't.
Okay, we'll move on to the next point, which is on the next slide. Okay, this point is about, you want to introduce it?
Sure.
Introduce it.
Pastor Sunday Adelaja knows that it's all about God and not himself. He gives all the glory to God and not himself. Should you go first? I can go first?
You can go first.
Yeah. So Pastor Sunday Adelaja, like it said, the name of the slide just says it perfectly. He knows it's all about God and not about himself. I think that this is a very important topic to bring up now. Everybody watching this live stream, I'm sure that we can agree that Dr. Sunday Adelaja has some crazy accomplishments. I mean, there's a Wikipedia page of him, there's articles about him, there's books written about him, not just his book, there's other books written about him, and they can detail all the thousands of people that he's reached, the millions of people that he's reached, the people that his rehabilitation centers have rescued from alcoholism and drug addiction, the people that have been fed by his soup kitchens, the people who came from broken families, who had just suffered a divorce, who couldn't speak, who had some type of horrible illness, and and thanks to the ministries that Pastor Sunday has founded, they went through a recovery. They become successful. They became politicians. They became leaders of their own NGOs. But rather than just saying that, look, I have done all of this. Look at all these things I can do. And taking advantage of that the way that sadly many pastors do. Because of Pastor Sunday's great results, it would have been so easy to come and say, hey guys, just give me some money and you'll have the same results. Hey guys, just pray this prayer or just do this thing to submit yourself to me and you'll be able to have the same results. And even though a lot of people will accuse all charismatics or Protestants of having that point of view, if you listen to Pastor Sunday's Adelaja sermons, you'll know that he has never ever promoted that point of view. Instead, he has said, hey, life is predictable. If you work hard enough, if you put more than 10,000 hours into something, if you are always working on something, if you are goal-oriented, if you are tenacious, if you have God, then there's no way that you can not achieve your goal. The only way that you cannot achieve your goal is if you give up, if you let failures define you. But if you stand up every time you fall, like the Bible says, the righteous man falls down 7 times and stands up 8. If you let your failures teach you, like that famous Thomas Edison quote about how I didn't fail 999 times to make a light bulb. I found all those methods not to make one. If you have that mentality when you fail, then you will definitely succeed. And all the things that we mentioned about feeding the poor, about helping people, rescuing them from drug addiction, about having people who lived through broken families, lived through the wars, had nothing, become politicians, leaders of NGOs. This is all thanks to God's power. But it's so easy to take credit for these products as a visible human being and to forget about the invisible God. But Dr. Sunday Adelaja has always given all due credit to Jesus Christ. He has always pointed people to Jesus Christ and not to him, to the point that he has handed over leadership of his church mostly to his wife and to other people. He's not the poster boy of the embassy of God. He's not acting as an entertainer, monopolizing everything there. He's not sucking out opportunities from people in the church. Instead, he's encouraging everybody to start their own ministry. He's encouraging everything to go through like a whole school curriculum of becoming a pastor. There's a Joshua Bible School, and then there's a pastor's institute in our church that people have to go through in order to become pastors, in order to be trusted with other people, in order to have the authority to plant churches. And rather than saying, well, look, I'm so smart, I've already gone through all these things. Actually, I founded these curriculums. I'm the OG pastor, guys. I'm the best pastor, and nobody can be better than me. So let me just handle everything. Instead of literally being a dictator and making himself be the main face of everything, instead of building a cult of personality, instead of repressing other people and taking talented people and using their talents for his own good, instead he gives everything away. He plans to leave this huge church, this huge amazing things that he has built in Ukraine, and go to Nigeria. And I'm telling you before, people are always speaking so negatively about Nigeria as if it's literally one step away from hell. And yet he, knowing especially the state of the church in Nigeria, and of course, I'm not insulting true Nigerian believers here. I'm talking about the people who have done exactly the opposite of DSA. Taken the church, taken the gospel, taken their results, and taken all the credit, sucked out the opportunities of people, and taken their money, taking their talent, taking everything to glorify themselves instead of God, saying, yes, we're doing this in Jesus' name, and then endorsing some type of witchcraft, endorsing some type of endorsing some type of scams, and endorsing some type of corruption to benefit them in the name of Jesus Christ. So knowing that all of that is going on there, and that's actually the norm in Nigeria, he's ready to leave this familiar place as soon as he can to go there and completely tear down and reform that place. I think that we don't think about how hard it is to reform a completely corrupt system. When we talk about Martin Luther, we talk about him as if he was a hero, but do we know that once he was just singing in the choir, just being a good Catholic monk, and he just yelled out in agony because he couldn't reconcile how what he was so attached to, the Catholic beliefs, could be the Catholic beliefs in indulgences that had been so accepted by the church at that time, the nepotism, the corruption, that it was completely incompatible with the Bible. I mean, he was a monk. He knew the Catholic dogma from start to finish. And all his friends were in the monastery. He left everything to go to the monastery. And now he would have to leave everything again to go against a whole institution that even was like just as powerful as the king, because the king made him an outlaw when he started protesting the church. You think that was easy for him to do? I don't think it was easy for him. And now to go through that same agony, to go through that same to be ostracized by the mainstream church again, that's what DSA is ready to do. When he could have just sat down and said, hey, look at all these things I did. Look at all these numbers. I fed all these people. I've converted all these people. Worship me. That's basically what happened to King Solomon, because he was a very successful king. He just started worshiping the God of wealth, the God of comfort, instead of God. But instead of doing that, despite everything that Dr. Sunday Adelaja has done, he says things will get harder for me because I'm going to continue preaching the gospel. I'm going to continue spreading the word of God, even when it's hard for me. He is not a narcissist. He knows that we humans are the pot created by the potter. We are made to reflect Christ. And in everything he does, you can see that. His program, he doesn't talk about himself. The only times that you see DSA in the titles usually are when people are asking him questions about himself. Then he makes the question the title of the program so people can know that their questions are being answered. Otherwise, why God is disappointed with most Christians, what God means in this passage, what God wants all men to know before marriage, etc. and etc. It's never about him. It's never about, oh, I'm so smart, oh, I'm so good, oh, I. No, it's always about God, God, God. Even when he talks about his success, I mean, he should be proud of himself that he came out of a tiny Nigerian village, not like an urban populated place with all the opportunities. No, a tiny, tiny unknown village with no father, with poverty, destitute. And he became a major person, a public figure. No, God. All the credit goes to God. And that's exactly how the great men of the Bible acted. That's how the people mentioned in the Hall of Faith acted. And that's not an easy attitude to adopt. You know what Paul said? I am now dead, and it is Christ that lives in me. You have to, in order to have this type of view, you have to die to yourself. You have to kill your flesh and put God on the first place. That is exactly what Pastor Sunday has done. And you can't look at any of his sermons and say that he's telling people to worship him or that he is taking the focus away from God. No, he's always getting closer to God. He's always getting the revelation from God. And he never puts the glory on himself. He's so ready to admit his faults, if only it is to bring people closer to God. Even if you look at the video of the anniversary, he was talking about, oh, when I first came to the Soviet Union, I was just dumb. He said that word. I wasn't the smartest. I thought nobody wants to be my friend. I thought I'm too skinny, I'm too this, I'm too this. And he's talking about his journey, having to overcome his insecurities. I think that if I was in a high position and I knew that with some words I could manipulate people, I could control them because of all the things I had succeeded, like we see a lot of politicians do that, I would not admit my faults. One of our politicians in Ukraine did that. Ukraine has a very corrupt system, and recently we've had some courts formed against corruption. We had some organizations formed against corruption. And while the process to form those things were happening, the government resisted them in every way. It was so obvious, all the news things were covering it, that the government resisted it in any way. But when it was passed, politicians went, oh yes, finally, the thing we've been working for so hard. We've been supporting this for so long. We've been battling corruption for such a long time. Finally, the laws are passed. Yes, I've spearheaded so many things in order for these laws to be passed. Even though a month before the law was passed, you can see them paying lobbyists to make sure that law gets some a smear campaign against it. That law gets unpopular. And that's what probably I would do if I was in such a high and influential position. I would try to make myself look the best. I wouldn't try and admit my faults, but yet we see our father, Dr. Sunday Adelaja, doing that all the time. And that's because his focus is God, and not himself, and not his flesh. He knows that all the glory is to God, that without God he would be nowhere, that God is everything, and not himself.
Thank you, Pearl, for that very long points you had right there. PEREZ, is there anything you want to say?
You guys hear me?
Sir.
Never mind. Okay, I think I'll start. Continue off of my dearest younger sister, who had a lot to say. What is there left to say? Okay, so in case you forgot, the topic of this point is how my father, everything he does is all about God and not about himself. And I think that's very evident to see because he's very earnest and sincere. But with Pastor Sunday, when he performs, what you read, what you hear from him, what comes from his mouth, what you see is what you get. He doesn't put on a fake persona or an act that he puts on for the public. How he acts on stage is how he acts on home. How he acts on stage is how he acts at home. And how he talks is how he talks at home. Of course, he's not always energetic and he's not always happy because we're all human beings, but he is earnest. He's not deceiving anyone by appearing more likable or appearing in a different way that he is. He is just the way he is. When people meet him, they're not surprised, they're put off by what they see because he is the way that he is. Like my sister said, he allows a lot of he self-admits his own flaws, his own mistakes, his own difficulties that he has, because he's not trying to concoct the image of a perfect person, an all-powerful person who knows and has all the answers. Should come to him. All the glory that he gets, he takes it to God. When he got a scholarship to the Soviet Union, he was studying, and he had a picture of Jesus on the wall. He was willing to risk his education and so much more to keep it up on the wall because God is so important to him. And he moved when he graduated from university, and he moved on to start a church. He had very little resources. He had close to nothing. He just did it because God was telling him to do so. He wasn't relying on anything. He had no plans. He had not much money, not many connections. It was all on God. And of course, with a man who has so little, it would obviously have a toll and be taxing to start a church and to have people for praise and worship and people to come and to let God use him. But even when he had nothing, when he probably in another situation would have been looking to find something to help himself, to find a job, to get a more convenient lifestyle, he was still serving God by serving other people. And that is the heart, that is where that's what he came from. And one of the principles that our Father taught us is to remember where we came from, never to forget our roots, never forget people who have raised us, who have blessed us. And he keeps on referring to his past because there was a once upon a time when he wasn't where he is today. This didn't come out of nowhere. God just kept on providing him, taking care of him. Through all the obstacles of life, he always has faith in God because God has proved himself and he will continue to prove himself. When people ask him why you do this, it's because that's what God put him on earth to do. And people people accuse him of scams or of any dishonesty. He's just clear and he's honest because it's not about himself, it's not about us. Whenever he advises people to get bigger cars so they can carry more people and give people rides because that is like a generous thing to do. Right now, we live in a bigger house than we did before, but it's all so that people could come and stay here when we have teachings. It's all for other people's service. We don't use a lot of the house that we have. We rent it out to people. We offer it for people to stay. And even before we had this house, we lived in an apartment. And people still came over to our apartment, which is small and not very comfortable, not of a big size. But we still had people over so that still had people over because my father had things to tell them, and where there's a will, there's a way. So all these excuses that people throw at our father, he's actually selfish, he's actually a scam, he just wants the money. If you listen to what he's saying, if you see what he's doing, you can see that's not true. If you might know that our father has plans to go to Nigeria and to spread the word there, to save where he came from. And why would he want to leave everything that he has here? Because from Nigeria, he'd have to start over. He has more connections in other countries in the world. He has like his house, and he's lived here for so many years. But to go back, he's going to have to start again from nothing. Of course, he's going to have more knowledge and more wisdom, a much more mature person than he was when he left. But it's still going to be taxing and hard again. Our father, he doesn't rest. He's always working, and he's always working so hard. He has a high standards for himself, for the people working with him, for the people around him. And it's not all, it's not all for fun, and it's not all for the money. It's all for God. He knows his time here is limited, and he wants to serve God as much as possible and do as much as he can for God. It's in every circle of his life. As we talked about before, him being a father, he was trying to emulate God and imitate God. He was trying to fulfill God's purpose and his mission and his will in every aspect. Glorify God with his life, be a living servant. So I think there's way too much proof and evidence that everything that my father does, he does it with God in his heart and God in his mind. Most of the time he spent quality time with us. It would be, and all these principles that he would teach us, they would be supported and backed up by the Bible and personal experiences. His whole living is about being a pastor and writing books that are based on principles from the Bible and having sermons that are, everything is based from the Bible or experiences that he had from God or anything. So I think that's all I have to say. PEREZ, can you try saying something?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Um,
Can you hear
we're
me?
having some audio issues, it seems. Maybe you can write us and we can read out what you have to say.
PEREZ, you sure that you're not mute? You checked all your buttons and your computer? Your
Sure.
phone, I mean? It's not
I'm
plugged
sure
into
I'm
anything?
muted.
Okay, try talking some words right now, please.
I think.
Try
Hello,
talking some
hello.
words.
1 2 1 2.
Yeah, he is.
1
He's
2
talking.
3. Hello.
Oh,
You can hear.
we can't hear him.
All right. Then.
Oh,
Oh, there we go.
can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
we can
we
hear you. Hip hip hooray.
Congratulations.
Oh, great. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Some audio technology issues, but yeah, everything my sisters have said has been spot on. Everything that our Father has done for us, everything that He has sacrificed for us, it's all been because He knows that this is one of His missions sent by the Lord. And it's the reason that He looks towards the Lord for His guidance, towards the Lord as the person who sets, as the person who rates Him, you could say, as the person who grades Him, is the reason why He has been able to be so successful, because the Lord's standard is higher than any person's standard here on earth. There's no need to care about what people think about you, what they, how they judge you, how they perceive you. But the only person you should be trying to impress is the Lord. When you do anything in order to satisfy what the Lord wishes for you, you're gonna achieve amazing and outstanding results, even if people don't agree with you. And you can definitely tell from if you know anything about my father, that not everyone has agreed with him. However, he has always gone forward in what the Lord wanted him to do. Because of this, he's been able to have some incredible stories to tell, some incredible records that he's done. He's been able to achieve some amazing feats, and none of that would have been possible if he was just trying to satisfy humans. Because he was trying to satisfy the Lord, because he was only listening to what the Lord wanted, that's why he was able to get to where he is right now. And that's what we should all take away from this. My sisters have spoken extensively about how he's been able to use this approach as a father, but all of us, we can use this approach just as human beings, that we should always try to, in anything we do, we're not doing it for humans, we're doing it for God,
because he was trying to be a father for us through the lenses of God, that is why he has been able to be such an amazing father towards us.
Words. Now, I think we have said everything we can about the topic.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's please move on to the next points, which is shown on the next slide. Yes. Do you want to do this one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pastor Sunday Adelaja, our Father, he motivates people to fulfill their destinies. Do we have a video for this?
We do. Let's please play the video.
About motivating people to fulfill their destinies.
So your calling could be in what you often think, talk, read, and hear about. What do you like to listen to? What do you like to hear about? You just enjoy talking about this topic, that's all. You just enjoy talking about it. You enjoy hearing it. You enjoy listening more and more to it. What is it? What topics are those that really captivate you? To captivate your hearing, captivate your attention. You are never ever tired of listening and hearing more and more about these things. What is that topic? Well, that might be a way of God telling you that's your calling. Is there anything apart from some things you like to hear and like to listen to? Is there anything you like to read about? Any topic, any particular topic that entices you, that attracts you? What are those topics that attract you? What are those topics that you are interested in reading about? You know, there are some people that would never read about some topics, but there are some people that want to read only about medicine. You want to read everything about medicine, and you want to hear people talk about medicine. But for some people, that doesn't hold any water. They never ever want to hear anything about medicine. But you want to read about medicine. You want to hear about medicine. Well, is that telling you anything? Yeah, that should let you know that there is something there more than the ordinary. That there is something that God wants to tell you. And the reason why you will always feel enticed to a particular thing, and the reason why you will always feel stimulated by that particular topic is because that topic is indwelt in you. You know, God has put our callings and our destiny inside of us. It is dwelling inside of us. So we don't need to look for it from the moon or from outside. No, we have that calling already in us. It's already inert in us. So even if you've never heard about it before, once you begin to hear about it, and there is something that responds from inside of you. It's a response. So it is your calling that is inside of you that responds to what is hearing, and it wants to hear more about it. So that's why what you like to hear about is a call, is an appeal to the destiny that is already inert in you, that is already buried in you, that is already concealed in you. So in your creation, God opened you up and put in you the assignment that you are supposed to carry out on the earth. God opened you up and concealed in you the destiny that He has for you. So that destiny is looking for expression one way or the other. And one of the ways that it could better be expressed is when it hears something talking about that destiny that is already in you. So it responds to it. Your calling is concealed in you. And one of the ways for you to reveal and unveil that calling is for you to ask yourself the question, what is it that I will normally and I often think about? What are your thoughts occupied with? I'm not talking about the mundane things like the problems and challenges that are coming from outside that are bothering you. I'm not talking about the troubles, concerns of what to eat, what to drink, but I'm talking about the serious topics of life, serious issues of life that you would like to address. But questions that lead you into engagement, into engaging yourself, into engaging your thoughts, into thinking about what you would have liked to be engaged in, where you would like to add value to life and to others. When we're talking about what the calling, we are not talking about the subjects or things that you do that just appeal or meet your own personal needs. Calling is not about selfishness. Calling is not about egocentrism. And calling is not about me and I and mine. Calling should not be just about providing for yourself or meeting your own needs or resolving your own problem. Calling should be more than that. Calling should go beyond you. Calling is something that you are willing and you desire to do, not just for yourself, but you want to do for others and for God. So calling is, for example, if people like Mercedes-Benz have only thought, or Ford, have only thought about themselves and their families, can you imagine? None of us would have heard of Mercedes-Benz today. None of us would have heard of Ford today, because they thought beyond themselves. They didn't just think about providing car for themselves and for their family members, but they thought about how to improve the life of humanity at large. So that desire to make life better for humanity is what is calling. So calling always has something to do beyond yourself. Calling always has something to do for other people, not just for yourself. So if you are still only thinking, if all these questions that you are thinking about are only revolving around you and yours, you and your family, then that's not calling. That is egocentrism, that's selfishness. So when you really want to talk about calling, you want to find out what is it that you really want to do to affect other people, to bless other people, and to touch the lives of more people than you and your family. So that is what calling is.
Should I start or should you start?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. So as you could tell, for my father, finding someone's personal calling and destiny and personal mission from God that they were put on earth is very important, because it's how he identifies who a person is. Like, I'm the man who created the car that you're riding, or I'm the man who created the internet. Something that only you can do. Maybe you don't do it alone, but if it wasn't for you, it wouldn't exist. This is what you identify yourself by. You don't identify yourself by, I'm a girl, because you're not the only girl out there. My name is Zoe, your name isn't so unique. Everything, all these physical, materialistic stuff, they don't last, and it don't matter to the average person. Like my sister said, you have to find out what problem people have, and you have to fix it, and then you will be known, because you're the person who solved that problem. You're the person who changed the world forever, changed it for the better. And God created each of us with a calling and a purpose in mind. We're here for a reason, which is why my father does most of the things that he does and did most of the things that he did, even when he had little resources. Because he believed that was the reason God put him on earth. He would follow God, follow him, because if not him, then nobody, you know? If not you, then who? If not now, then when? So, everyone has a calling, and it's very important for us to find it, because it is who we are. And once we find out what it is, we devote the rest of our lives to it. The sooner we know what it is, the sooner we can get there and find our success and be better and better in life. You have something to add?
No, you can finish.
No, you were like, are you sure? Okay. So we all have our passions. Looking at our passions can help us find what we want and what God has planned for us. You know, God has created us, right? He created our interests, our favorite color, our passions, obviously. So, and God put that in us for us to be attracted towards it, like a magnet. It's like as my father said in the video, that, you know, maybe you're interested in medicine, but nobody else is. You have the interest because you have a future and a goal and a purpose in medicine. God puts this stuff inside us, puts his desires for us inside us, makes them our desires so that we can go and pursue it. And it'll be fulfilling to ourselves and to God and possibly, hopefully, the entire world. My dad really wants everyone, he doesn't want anyone to waste away, to lose their purpose, to lose their minds in a mindless job, to feel like they don't matter to this world, they don't need it. Anyone could replace their lives or their jobs. Because we are all unique, we are all individual. This is very close to my father's heart. He feels like it's part of what he can do, apart from his main calling, is to unveil and unleash people's potentials and let them know that they can be something more. And in fact, they might have to be something more, because if we let them slip away, then our world will never be the same. It could have been so much better, but it's not. This is just a little bit of what I just say, but I'd like to hand this over to my sister for now. So please.
Yeah, amen, Zoe. I really agree with that. I think that the fact that helping people and motivating people to find their calling is actually part of our Father's calling. During one of the HMTs, the youth HMT that happened in 2017 around that time, not the latest one, but the one before that, we read two books. And one of them was Create Your Own Networks, and the other one was Life is an Opportunity. And just as Zoe has said already, from those books you could really tell that our Father does not want, our Father, Pastor Sunday Adelaja, he does not want anyone to live their life having wasted their potential. But by extension, I don't think our Father in heaven desires that either. There's one story from there that I really liked. There was a girl there was a place where every day people would walk by the road, and on the road there was this huge lump, like a huge dirty piece of dirt. And it would always stay there, and it was always there, and it was a dry region in Africa, so nobody really knew, so there wasn't like rain to wash it away. Nobody knew why there was this huge slab of caked mud or something by the side of the road. And a girl one day was just playing around with it, and she brought it home. And after washing it off and carrying it around with her, some people noticed that rock that was by the side of the road was actually a diamond. So many people have been passing by that opportunity all their lives, walking past it, and they never took the extra mile, the extra step to reach out and grab it. And that one little girl did, and that really made more opportunities for her family. And there's all types of those stories in Life is an Opportunity and in Create Your Own Network. So what is the point of that story? It's to show that you have to take the opportunities around you. But I think that it's hard to know which opportunities you should accept, know which opportunities you want to get you closer to your goal if you don't have a goal. And I think that's the importance of having a calling. Just look at all the people in the world that just don't know what to live for, who are going through apathy because they just don't know what the point of life is, what there is to live for, why they're even alive, why they were even created, and what their calling is. Sure, they might have interest or something, but there's nothing that they're completely committed to. But just from that video, that puts you a step on the right track. Is there something that you've always been interested in since you were a kid? It wasn't something that, you were forced to be interested in. It was something that you would watch TV documentaries about, or watch internet stuff about, read articles about, read books about, even if nobody else asked you to, or even if nobody forced you to. Everybody has something like that. Everybody has some interest that just grips them a bit more, firmly than the usual 1 week obsession, or just a video game or something that is meant to entertain you. Everybody has something that tugs at their heart because we have our calling inside us. And if everybody knew their calling and was motivated to go forward towards it, then I think we would live in a much happier world today. But despite the fact that I say that our world has progressed a lot, since the fall of humankind, since when Adam and Eve first sinned. And I think that is because, like it was mentioned in the video, there are some people like Henry Ford, like the founders of Mercedes-Benz, that thought about more than just daily life and the mundane things, themselves and their family. They actually thought about how else to benefit the world, about how they could take their interests, how they could take how they wanted to change the world, how they could take what was interesting to them and make that into something major, make that into something that nobody could forget ever. And I think that we should all have things like that, right?
Yes. Before we let PEREZ speak, we would like to now make sure you don't forget that this is our Father's birthday month, and he has a discount for all of his books. So if you want to take advantage of the discount, please go to the email DSA'S books, BOOKS, @gmail.com, gmail.com.
Yes. And if you want to, after we're done speaking, to share your opinion, to share your thoughts, to share your revelations on this very program, then please Find Move agents on Facebook Messenger, and when the time is given, just call in and you can be a part of this program as well.
PEREZ, what would you like to add?
Yep, I just wanted to add upon what my sisters have said about how our Father is not only a physical father for us, but how he's also a spiritual father for so many people. As you can tell, I chose this video just as an example of how our Father is able to motivate, and he's been able to help so many people because of his motivating nature. This video is just a public video on YouTube. That means it's accessible for everyone. It's not something that he just kept hidden for his family or for his very close friends. This is something that he has been preaching, something that he's been spreading for literally as long as he has been a pastor. So this way of motivating people to fulfill their destinies is also layered in the fact that he is motivating people to reach their highest potential. Many people in high positions, they're scared of being overtaken. They're scared of building up someone who will then become greater than him. So, but our Father is not the same. He is not worried about such trivial things, you could say. He is trying to make sure everyone gets to the highest point possible. And that's something that is very impressive. That's something that that type of humility, that type of awareness is not something that you would really see it throughout many people who are of such a high position. So it's something that us kids and literally everyone can really take to themselves, that no matter what position we are, that shouldn't stop us from motivating others in order to achieve their greatest potential. Nothing should be stopping us, no greed, no selfishness should be stopping us from getting to this, from reaching this high level. It's something that I think is not spoken enough about, but it's something that I'm sure that we'll be able to spread, something that we'll be able to continue as we grow up as well. And I'm just glad that we are brought up with such a mentality that just because I am doing well doesn't mean no one else has to be doing well either. So our Father has really helped motivate so many people to really get the best version of themselves, and that's something that's really rare.
Thank you, PEREZ. I think that's all we have to say for that topic. We'll have more, but we have more things to talk about as well. So let's please move on to our next point.
On the next slide.
Great. Now, our Father has humility in fathering, as he understands God is the most important thing in our lives. This obviously goes off of our previous points that God is the most important. Now let's watch the video that accompanies this point.
We only serve God when we serve people. We cannot, there is no service to God without service to man. There is no service to God without serving man. That is very important. Now, can you imagine what our own idea of service is? Most of us believe that we serve God only when we go to the mass, if you are a Catholic, or when you go to the service, when you go to church, if you are a Protestant. We go to church every Sunday to serve God. Well, I'm not sure about that. And some of us who are really very enthusiastic and very religious and very pious and very righteous and very holy and really very passionate about our faith, most of us try to serve in the church. Some of us serve as ushers, some of us serve as choir members, some of us serve as children workers, and we try to do our best. But really, the best kind of service that God will accept from every one of us is when we serve people. You know, all of us, we want to serve the God that we don't see, the God that is so far, the God that is so, abstract. You know, so we like this idea of serving God abstractly. Oh, I'm serving God, I serve God, I know God. What do you do? Well, I go to church. Well, I try to do something in my church. Some people actually equate serving God with money. Well, I give some money to people. I give money to church. That's my service. Well, you cannot really serve God that you don't see if you don't pay attention to people that you see. Now let's look at the scripture. Do you remember the situation when Jesus Christ actually washed the feet of his disciples? What do you think he was doing? What do you think the lesson was? Because I actually know there are some denominations right now all over the world that is what they do. They actually physically try to wash the feet of their members, and they wash each other's feet. Nothing bad about that. If you like it, let's go ahead and do it. But the real lesson that Jesus is trying to teach us in that story is that it is about people. Even though Jesus himself is the Son of God, not just the Son of God, Jesus is God all by himself. And despite that, he will not bypass people. And some people think, no, Jesus, you are too important to pay attention to ordinary people like us. You are too important to begin to serve us and wash our feet. Jesus didn't think that way, because if they are people, according to Jesus, these people are made in the image of God. And these people carry God's likeness. And whatever he's doing for them, he's actually doing for God. So by Jesus washing the feet of his disciples, he was actually washing the feet of God. Because God is in every person. The nature of God is in every man. So by Jesus showing us that example, that each time we sacrifice ourselves, our time, our resources, our energy to serve man, that we are actually serving God in heaven. For you to serve God, for you to really prove to God and impress God that you are serious about serving him, you need to begin to pay attention to ordinary people, humans, and begin to extend your service to them. It is when you serve people that you convince God truly that you want to serve him. It is only when you pay attention to people, when you begin to serve them with your gifts, with your talents, with your resources, with your time, when you begin to give your love to ordinary people, that is when you convince God that, God, I'm not doing this just for you to be able to bless me, or for you to be able to give me something, or for you to be able to show me for me to show you how good I am. I'm doing this because I love you. And if I love you, I love your creation. If I love you, I love your people. And I am ready to do anything for your people just to prove my love for you. And when you can prove your love for God, not by doing something directly to God, because you don't see God, he doesn't complain about anything against you. He cannot, you don't feel guilty. But when people who offend you from day to day, people who don't treat you well, when people who don't give you anything, who cannot contribute to your life, when people who maybe even have done bad things to you, when you begin to consider them, and because of the love of God, you begin to go out of your way to serve them, to do something good to them, to be kind to them, that is when you really prove to God, and God is convinced that, yeah, this person is really serious. If you love God for real, you will love people. There is no way you will love God that you will not love people. It's just not possible. When you love God for real, you will recognize God in people. You will feel the compassion of God for people. You will have the heart of God. So if you are a believer, I want to challenge you that your belief is not just your vertical relationship between you and God. Your faith in God has to be also horizontal, and that has to be in how you relate to people in your life or around you.
Yes. This point obviously has very closely connected to how everything is about God, not himself. And Jesus himself was God, and he was, as Pearl mentioned before, born as a humble carpenter. Through his whole ministry on earth, he was very humble. Even though he was king of the Jews, he washed other people's feet, even though he allowed his own feet to be washed. He came to serve. He came to help us to build a close relationship with God. He died for us. He was a sacrifice for us. And if our Father is trying to emulate God, and Jesus was God on earth, he is also going to be obviously very humble. Everything he does is for other people. So he put on earth to help others. We're all put on earth to help each other. We don't survive on our own. Humility is obviously a very part of our Father's ministry, as it was of Jesus' ministry. And again, this just proves that if you look at him, if you listen to what he's saying and look at what he's doing, you know that he's not selfish. It's not about himself. It's all for other people. It's also that he wants, you know, when you find something good, if you're not selfish and you don't have a black heart, you want to share it with the world so that we'll all share and enjoy it together. We're going to keep this point a little bit short because we're already running very long on time. But Pearl, what do you have to say?
Yes, I think that it's true that our Father is humble and that he does everything for God, because that's something that has actually become quite part of my mentality, that I have to spend my life serving God. But since I was younger, the best way that I knew that I was taught to serve God was through serving other people. That's just something that comes naturally to us in our family, because our father and our mother, they're the type of people who know that God has created everyone. God is in everyone. And when Jesus was on earth, he didn't just hang out with his disciples and be like, yeah, I'm the right denomination. I'm righter than everybody else. Hey, if you want to be saved, come to me. Or like, if you want to be saved, be the exact same as me. I'm not coming out to you lowly people that I disagree with and talking with you. No. He was actually the exact opposite. He went to the Pharisees, he went to the Samaritans, he hanged out with poor people, with prostitutes, with sinners, with tax collectors. These were all despised groups back then. Just think about the people that you hate the most right now. I bet you still don't like tax collectors now. And Jesus was specifically making these people their friends, their disciples. And to do that without thinking of his reputation, without thinking, oh, I'm the Son of God. Why can't I just do whatever I want? Why can't I just do whatever I want to make people look well at me? Why can't people just bow down to me rather than me having to go out to these people and wash their feet? Instead of doing that, he actually humbled himself to reach out to everyone. And that's exactly what, as Zoe has said, our Father is trying to imitate. And not only that, he has inculcated in our minds that we should try to imitate. So we know that we have to serve people, not because we're so good, not because we're so amazing, but because we are Christians, because we are children of God. And since we are followers of Christ, there's nothing else we can do except to serve God. And there's no way that God would want us. There's very few people in the Bible who have served God without serving any other people. So I think that's exactly the purpose that God has for each of us, in our own different ways, with our own different calling, to serve the people that he has created.
Yes, Pearl, I agree. PEREZ, is there anything more that you would like to add?
Yes, I'll just quickly add about how important humility in serving people is, both as a father and as a human. And I'm just thankful that we have been able to grow up in such a way that we understand that we can never be too big to serve anyone, too big to do anything like that. And Dad always said when we were growing up that you can never live your life in a way that you think nobody can teach you something. And he always makes it known that it doesn't matter what position the person is in, whether he's a janitor, CEO, that they both deserve our respect and they both can teach us something. That's something that I think will make you stand out if you actually apply this into your life.
Thank you, PEREZ.
Thank you so much, PEREZ. We definitely agree. So, as we have said before, this month is our Father's Birthday month. There's a book promo. You can find out how to get some discounted books if you email DSA'sbooks@gmail.com. That's DSA'sbooks@gmail.com.
Yes.
Please email that to get your discounted books. Only this month of May.
Yes. Okay, we have come to as far as we could to this presentation, and now is the time for you to call in and ask any questions or give any comments that you might have. To do that, please go on Facebook Messenger and look for Move Agents. That is MOVEAGENTS.
Find them on Messenger and call in.
Yes, please call in. We have some extra
we have some extra points
nuggets
actually
of information that we might talk about as you guys call in.
Yeah, so we can just be casually discussing this as we're waiting for your calls. So one of the other things that we love about our Father is that he greatly teaches and values truth. And we all know the saying, right, that ignorance is bliss. And I think that a lot of us know that maybe if you were in science class and you grew up singing the song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, How I Wonder What You Are. And you go in science class and you learn that those diamonds in the sky are actually burning balls of gas. And you're
They're
like,
already dead.
and they're already dead. We're just seeing them years and years after they've already exploded, and yeah, we're literally just seeing. So basically, they're not diamonds in the sky, and we'll never actually be able to reach out and touch them, and all those Peter Pan type of Disney things that we watched as children were lies. Of course, when those things happen, you just feel so bad. You're like, that ruined my childhood. It was so much fun to believe that one day a fairy would come down, cast her magic spell over me.
Hello.
We have a caller.
We have a caller.
Hello, good sir.
Hello, Zoe PEREZ. How are you?
Nice to hear you. We are fine.
Okay. This is Tukana Baribo calling from USA.
Oh, awesome.
Okay.
Yes, this is quite an interesting story, by three of you. I've been listening and
Thank you.
and being challenged, by the testimonies and the good things that you are saying about your DSA. We can never always forget what DSA is doing. DSA is raising the bar, as a father, as a mentor, as a pastor, whatever you can call him, so high that is almost difficult to meet that bar. I have 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy, just like you all. And I have my challenges. I have all my children in Western world. So I understand, I relate with some of the things you are saying. Because I was brought, I grew, to maturity, all through my days in Africa. And coming here and having children that, that grew up in this Western world, things are different. Their mentality, their way of doing things. So I saw that I had to learn from my kids, and my kids had to learn from me. So it has always been a challenge, trying to understand each other. So I want to ask a question. I want to ask this question because I want to learn from you and the 3 of you. How we or people like us who are still strong in our African mentality and culture, how we can better be a good parent like DSA. To our kids, and to our children, especially those of them that are in the Western world. So I want to ask that, yes, in course of DSA relating with you, there may have been some time that, you all felt that DSA is harsh, DSA is not understanding. Has there been times like that? Because I have many times like that. So I also want to understand. And secondly, like I said, how, what advice can you give to parents like us on how to relate with children like you? Taking in reference the cultural differences. DSA had an advantage because he left early, and he was able to adapt and transform. Some of us, we came here late when we are in our 20s, 30s, and we are still struggling with the changes and some of the things that we see, how to relate with our children. So, what, in your view, how can we, better navigate through these challenges of these cultural differences and then still be a better father? I don't know if you get my questions.
I understand them. Do you understand them?
Yes.
PEREZ, do you understand the questions? Yes, okay. So, I would like to start and to say that one very important thing you could do with your children is to discuss. try having an open mind. You obviously have your opinions and they have theirs, but just because they don't align perfectly doesn't mean that one of the other is inherently wrong, because every side has their positive reasons and their negative disadvantages. So what you can do is come to a compromise, but there are obviously some things that you have to be harsh on and strict on. So my biggest advice for you and your children would be to have an open discussion, to call them in and you know, let them present their points, what they want different, what they want changed, and let them present like why. And since you're older, you're wiser, you're the parents, you will have like a much wider range of understanding and foresight than they do. And you will have, whatever advice you have to them will be wise, and because you have good interest for them. But, you know, times are changing, obviously. So you have to be open to maybe some things being done differently. Because even if you impose your doctrines on them, they still have to understand why. If they don't understand why, they won't believe it won't become a part of them, and they won't pass it on to their own children. So why are you raising them the way that you are? Why are you doing things the way that they are? You can't just be doing it because it's just the way that I was raised, because as we know, our father was raised without a father, and he doesn't use as a reason why he raises us the way that he raises us. He raises us in his own distinct way because he has a goal, he has a future that he sees for us. So you have to, my advice for you and your children would be to discuss. There's some things you can't compromise on, some things that are important, and you are the authority figure. God has entrusted these children unto you, and he trusts you to know what's best. But there should be room for compromise. They should know that you care and you have the best intentions for heart, even if they don't understand. That would be my main advice. Pearl, do you have anything?
Yes, I definitely agree with what my sister Zoe has said, because when we approach any situation, we come there with a bias. We think, look, this is what I did, this is how they reacted, I did this, I was perfectly reasonable, and they are acting like this. They're having these tantrums, there's emotional reactions, and often you just want to go to that person and say, hey, stop acting like this, I didn't do anything wrong, this and this and this. Obviously, but a lot of the times what we don't expect is, despite the fact that we have a perfect alibi in our minds, that person has a completely different point of view. That person definitely misinterpreted what you did, or definitely had a different point of view on what you did. Humans, we are complex creatures, and we have a wide range of emotions. We can say the same thing, the same exact phrase in different tones, in a different context, in a different situation, and it will mean wildly different things. So I'm just saying that even though sometimes it might feel like your children are being logical, like they're just being spoiled, or that they're being bratty, that they're throwing tantrums, you have to be ready to, like Zoe said, to listen to them with an open mind. Don't come to them and be demanding. Don't come to them and say, why are you always like this? Why are you doing this? What's wrong with you? What's this? Because especially if they're in a vulnerable emotional state, they'll feel like you have a problem with them as a human being, as an existence. They'll feel like even if they wanted to talk to you, you at that moment don't like them, or that you wouldn't understand because they weren't trying to provoke you, but now you're so mad at them. Come to them and try to understand, wait, what just happened there? I see that I've upset you. I see that something has gone wrong. Could I please hear your point of view? And try not to interrupt them. Try not to interject and say, no, you're wrong. No, this is what I was doing. No, it's your fault. It might be their fault, but in the modern world now that people have become a little bit more distant because of social media, though we're connected, we're also distant. I think people really understand the value of listening, of hearing the other person's point of view, not just hearing what they're saying, but listening, understanding. And of course, we can't read another person's mind. So our best shot is to listen to them and to have empathy for them. As Zoe said, just try to show them your point of view. You have a different upbringing from them. Like, I will never completely be able to understand what my parents went through because I grew up in a life of comfort. So don't try to make them feel guilty or make them feel like they're worse than you because they grew up with more comfort than you did. But just make sure that they understand that they have their point of view, and you have yours, and you have a legitimate reason for having your point of view. Like Zoe said, have an open discourse and be sure to give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't just come there as an accuser. Come there as someone who understands them. Come there as a friend. Come there as someone who wants to understand them better. Just like when we come to Jesus and we ask him to forgive our sins, he doesn't accuse us at first. He accepts us with an open heart at first. And then, as we grow in our Christian walk of life, he starts changing us. He starts disciplining us. He starts changing our hearts from hearts of stone to hearts of flesh.
Yes. To recap some of what my sister said, the main points what I got was like to try to understand your children, understand where they're coming from, put yourselves in their shoes, see their points of view. And also, if you're like admonishing them or scolding them or something, make sure that they know, directly or indirectly, make sure that they know that you are not condoning their behavior, but you still accept and love them as people. So separate their actions from themselves. Like, I don't like what you did, but it doesn't mean that I don't like you. Sometimes children might get that confused. PEREZ, is there anything that you would like to add?
Yes, the way you guys showed it, it was very good. You guys really explained the differences between Nigerian culture, for example, and the Western world culture. I think I'd also like to add, as we mentioned earlier, about spending time with your children. When you spend time with them, you're able to know what they like, you're able to know their habits, and it feels like there is a bit of a disconnect between, in the relationship sense, between Nigerian, or let's say African kids and African parents compared to Westerners. So there's also, you have to, I guess from the African standpoint, you need to be very strict, but in the Western aspect, you're able to be strict, but you're also able to be a loving parent at the same time. I think there's a bit of a, Africans lean towards the strict direction a bit more sometimes. So I would suggest for them to try to make sure that the relationship keeps on cultivating, even though the discipline has to be there. That, like Zoe recommended, that every time you punish them, you let them know why you're punishing, that it's wrong, and that you still do care for them, and to come from a point of understanding, not from a point of accusation, not to just start shouting and then asking questions later. And I think our parents also struggled with that a bit at first, trying to find the divide between discipline and loving, but I think they were able to find it pretty well. Always telling us why they were punishing us, telling us that they didn't want to do it, but they had to. It's for us, and maybe also finding different ways to punish, because it seems to be mostly of a physical punishment in Africa compared to in the Western world, where they'd ground you, for example, take away something from you. So it's also to give some different types of punishments as well. So I think that's what I'd suggest.
Thank you, PEREZ. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yep. Like my siblings have said, try to understand your kids and make sure to spend time with them. I think that the less time you spend with your parents, your children, especially if there's some type of misunderstandings between you, or maybe some type of a recent fight that has gone on, the more time they have time to build grudges in their hearts, and the more time that anger has to fester into some ridiculous ideas, or into some ideas of you that are actually a corruption of the way you really are, or what you really intended to do. I think that sometimes you should just take some time to sit down and do something that your kid likes. Go out to some place that they're interested in, take them to a movie that they like that isn't like inappropriate or something. Just try to see, that's even a better way to see things from their point of view. Of course, like, you have your priorities in life, you have your responsibilities in life, and you don't have to always do extravagant things. Just being with your kid, just talking with them, just being interested in them, and actually hearing them out, and not just always having one-sided conversations. That's really important to any child. But just make sure that they know that you care. Of course, just presents or outings aren't the evidence of a relationship. That's just like the bonuses. But just any time that you feel like you just want to give your child a treat, make sure you just give them these surprises once in a while. But on a daily basis, make sure that you're asking them how they're doing or what they want to achieve or what they're interested in, what's something new that they learned or want to talk about. Just make sure that they know that you're interested in them and you want to know more about them and you want to know about what interests them.
Thank you. And to add to that, benefits of knowing your child and spending time with them is you'll know what disciplines work on them and what disciplines don't. Maybe the things that worked on you won't work on them because people are different. You know, we're all different. Maybe one child deserves a different kind of punishment, a different treatment that has more effect on that person. But I think that's all I have to say on the matter. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you so much. We have another caller?
No, we should go to the next point
Yeah,
while
we
we're
should go to the
waiting
next point.
for more callers. Please continue to call. If you forgot, move agents on Facebook Messenger.
Also, if you're very emotional, don't take out your emotions on your kid. If you need to punish your kid, wait until you're calmed down so you don't do anything unreasonable. Yeah. So, greatly teaches...
No, we just did that.
Yeah, we just did that.
For the next point, that is...
We were interrupted while doing that.
Oh, okay, continue.
Yeah, greatly teaches... Oh, we have a caller? Yes.
Yeah. Hello.
Nice to hear you.
Oh my God. Hello, my beautiful kids.
Hello.
Amazing and wonderful kids.
Thank you so much.
You guys are really the duplicate of DSA and Pastor Bosse.
We're honored.
We are
You
individuals.
guys are wonderful. I just have one question for you before I start.
Go ahead.
Tell me the secret of your coming out this great. What made you be this great? What is the secret?
In order to achieve anything, you have to do it over and over again. I think that ever since we were tiny, Dr. Sunday Adelaja was teaching us the gift of analysis by sitting down with us, reading some of his sermon, reading some wise articles he had found, reading some excerpts from books that he had found, and not just reading it and telling us to go. Like sometimes we do in class, we put stuff into a child's brain and then we just send them off without actually developing it, except for homework. He had us answer questions about it. He actually had us draw our own conclusion about it. He actually had to analyze it, have our own applications of it, and finally ask our own questions about it. And if we didn't get the right conclusion from analyzing it, then he would ask us, okay, but I don't think that you've seen the essence of it, okay, but I don't think that you understand the point of it. So he would teach us to analyze from a very young age. So I think that a lot of the things that we can do today to pick up on a lot of things that, for example, our parents do, or to analyze a lot of the things that are going on in the world is because of the practice that we had with Dr. Sunday Adelaja as children, that we did it over and over again, and that was something normal for us.
Wow. You know why I asked this question? Because let me not exaggerate. 50% of pastors' children don't come out like this. They don't. So what could that be?
Well,
because if I take from the point that because your pastor and your mom is a pastor, they too, they have pastors and mothers that are there, but yet they don't come out like this. Because you guys, in fact, my head is filled up. I'm like, what is going on here? What is going on here? This is too much. This is too much, girls. I must commend you. I must commend
We are very grateful.
Don't forget our brother.
And our brother as well.
Go to the Most High God. And that now brings down to what DSA is teaching us. Because he says that every home that is good stands from the Father. The Father is the head of every home. And the Father is the foundation. And once the foundation is not good, it's not good. You guys just showed us what DSA is. You nailed all he's teaching us. You just vindicated that man from all he is. You children, the wife, you all made it clear to us. Because if you are this good, and your mother is this good, he is the head for sure. He is the foundation for sure. Every glory to God. I must commend you guys and filled with those people All glory to God. Thank you so much, sweethearts. I remain Mebu Chinwe, the Esther of Igbo land. Blessings.
Thank you very much for calling in.
Thank
We
you for your
appreciate
kind
these
words.
comments.
Thank
So,
you so much.
yes, our brother exists as well. So, as we wait for any future callers on Move Agents on Facebook Messenger, I think we've talked about all of our points, but
No, we still have some points. Should we continue talking about truth?
okay, I have a story about truth. One time when I was like 4 years old, I was in trouble with my mom, but not now because we have a caller. Please come in.
Zoe and PEREZ.
Yes.
I won't say much because the previous caller before me said something. My name is Innocent Badio. I'm calling from France.
Welcome.
He said he asked you guys the question I wanted to ask. So what I would do, I would just go straight and leave some compliment and then some personal question I would like to ask you. You both are really, really impressive this evening. The last woman that just called now, you can see you're blowing every person's mind. Zoe, you have a very charming sense of humor. I've seen the way you handle this evening, the entire show. And what you just said to this woman, you were saying, don't forget our brother. That was I just couldn't hold back. I just have to smile. I said, look, she's saying don't forget our brother. Here is somebody giving you a compliment, but you seem to be not completely impressed by it because to you it's something normal because it's a lifestyle you live. You need to understand that the way you are is completely abnormal. That for people outside, especially for Africans, we're not used to seeing children, adults at your age being so expressive about the ideas, and you this evening you just display a level of expertise that people have to go to university to get a certificate for journalism to be able to. The way you coordinated it this evening, Zoe, you handled it by asking Pearl what she has to say and asking PEREZ what he has to say too. And PEREZ seems to be a very calm person. He is very attentive. I don't think. Do you guys fight sometimes? Do you guys have disagreement between you three?
Yes.
We are children after all.
We are individuals that are we are different individuals, and of course, living together, rubbing elbows with each other, we have had our disagreements and our different petty fights, our like grudges or arguments, because that's a part of life. We can't just have.
So how do you solve? How do you fix it when there is that disagreement?
Well, I mean, we even had a lot of physical conflicts, but we all know that we love each other. We're so grateful we're not one of those siblings who kill one another. No, we love one another. We were raised in a family, that prioritized family a lot, as we know from all we said about our father. And our mom spent a lot of time at home when our father wasn't around to take care of us. You know what parents do, right? When the siblings fight, they're like, make up right now. Or like, pick up your brother's work even though it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault, but I still have to take care of it. It's not fair, but that's the way it is. Siblings, you live with them, you have to learn how to deal with them. But I think that most of us really want to recognize that our brother exists because he is our big brother, and we look up to our big or older authority people, Like our brother was also part of our discipline in a very slight way. And when we've had arguments or disagreements about something our parents said, the three of us would talk about it, and we would come to him to complain to him, and he would listen, and he would be the authority figure that was on our side because he's not a parent. So it's very important to remember that our brother exists, and he also influences my sister and I the way that we are. But every time I upset my brother, which is a lot of times, he just wouldn't talk to me for like the rest of the day, and the next day I'd be fine. Because he'd know that, and I'd know that he wouldn't stay mad at me for too long. But you keep that love in your heart and don't turn into the siblings that kill the heir to the throne to become king.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
You'd
Paris?
like to say something, bro?
Yep. You said it really well.
Okay, that's
We are
so
children.
the
We
question I
are.
want to ask.
It's inevitable for us to have our,
Hey, are you with me? Can you hear me?
you say, our
Okay,
battles.
it's Peps.
But I think just like normal children, we're able to sort them out. There's nothing that happened that's made us hate each other forever. It's just siblings being siblings and figuring out to stick up for each other when needed, and other times not being on the same side. And me being the only boy and the eldest, I had to, you could say, grow up faster. Had to be able to sort out issues between Zoe and Pearl if they had any. And since I was the oldest, I had to play sometimes the role of the adult. Didn't always have the chance to play the role of the child. So I think we all, even though we have had our disagreements, that never stopped us from being a great pair, a great group of siblings.
And with your question.
No, that I was listening to it. Yeah, yeah. So okay. Well, the question is a bit personal. I want each of you to be able to say something, at least try to describe Dr. Sonia Adelaja as a father to you in 2 words, and try to describe Pastor Kose in 2 words. Let's say like Pearl, you give us 2 words. What do you give us 2 words to describe? Let's say, and another 2 words to describe. Because if you reveal an insight of what you think about them, what I need you to describe their personality that you think that can best describe them. I'm waiting to hear what Paris will say to you.
So for my dad, it would be like strong and loyal, I guess. And then for my mom, it would be present and like persistent, because she is always there for us, but she also doesn't give up on her goals for us. And as for our father, he's also very loyal to the family. He knows exactly what he wants to teach us, and he's also very strong. So like he doesn't like spoil us too much. He also doesn't like scold us too much. He knows exactly what I think we need.
Zoe?
For my father, it would be passionate and ambitious, because he's always coming up with new projects, and he's pretty passionate about everything that he does, because it's all about God and it's all in relation with his calling. For my mother, it would be caring and persistent, because, as mentioned before, when her father wasn't around, she was always around, and she had to put up with us all the time. And we were always good, you know? We were formed into good people, but we weren't always good.
For sure.
A lot of the time, we're not good. So she's very persistent and caring enough to stick with us throughout our not good phases. PEREZ.
For my dad, I think I'd say firm and affirmative. For my mom, I'd say patient and understanding. The reason I chose firm affirmative for my dad is because, like, you could say, like, because he had to be the father, he had to usually play the role of disciplinarian, but he was also like the teacher, because he was always teaching us things. And as kids, when we'd see him preaching, we could see the confidence glowing. We could see him exuding this aura of determination. So just growing up and knowing that he was not scared of anyone of anything, that really like shows like a firm understanding, because she had to stay at home with us more, especially when my dad was traveling a lot. She had to deal with 3 very different children, and that takes time and understanding. It also takes a lot of patience, because it's not easy to manage people, but it's even harder to manage children. So I think that's why I choose those words.
Well, I think I agree with you. I agree with you, Zoe, too, about DSA being passionate and ambitious. And 2 words kept coming up. Zoe and Pearl said the word persistent. The word is persistent. You agree with that too. You also added that word. I think this reveals some personality about them. So my final word for you is that keep up with this good work. You are doing great. You are very beautiful ladies, and Perez. I can see him with beard, so that's great too. Keep up with this good work. You're going to change a lot of life. Please, I want you to dream big, big for Africa, because you are full of this energy, full of this passion, you have the opportunity now, the platform, and you are trained, you have the experience now, so please dream big for Africa, and God bless you and good luck.
Thank you very much for your call. It is very much appreciated.
Thank you.
We have time for one more call. Remember, Facebook Messenger, move agents.
And
Wait. Let me finish my story. I was 4 years old, and I was in trouble with my mom. And my father came back from wherever he was coming from, and my mom told him about whatever I was wrong with. And I was like a liar. And so my father said, if you tell me the truth, I won't punish you. So I told the truth, he let me go, and I ran to my room. Truth is very important to our father. As you know, since he's calling out all these churches and all these bishops and pastors who are abusing...
GOs.
Okay, time. Caller, please.
Yes, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
This is Telsey Gift.
Hi.
Oh, nice to hear you.
Gary, it's so nice to hear from you.
I'm so glad to hear you guys.
We too.
Talk.
Yes, you're also having some family experiences, huh?
And this is the first time I'm actually calling in, after you guys, talk like this. I've listened to you guys talk sometimes ago, but there was no opportunity to call. But I thank God for this opportunity. So, hello, Pell. Hello, Zoe. And hello to Perez. Good to see you guys. I have a question. I have like 2 questions. The first one, I wanted to know, what were the books that you guys read when you were probably much more younger that made you to be able to articulate so easily? And that's one. Then the next question is, were you guys ever scolded for doing something wrong? And if yes or no, what were your disciplinary measures that your parents gave to you? Can you remember any of them? What were some of the disciplinary measures that were given to you guys for probably going against the rules, or not doing something right, or not doing it on time, or all of those? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, of course, we
totally
understand.
Thank you so much for calling. We'll make sure to answer your questions. I think Perez should start with this one, since he's the oldest and has the most experience with this question.
Okay, let's start with the first one. Well, since we went to an American school, we obviously had the schooling list that we had to read, all the books that these American kids had to grow up. If you hear us, we have a bit of an American accent because we were taught our English from American teachers. And however, at home, I don't know where our parents got all these books and not DVDs. Back in the day, we had sets, VHS tapes. We also learned our English and how to articulate by watching a lot of these kid shows that teach you how to speak, the right pronunciations. So I don't like any specific names, of books that I was reading, but I do remember there were lots of interactive books and stories that we were reading. And of course, I think every kid has been disciplined while growing up. Of course, we got sometimes the belt, we got the slipper, but other times we got grounding, say, from TV, or one time the phone got taken away and I was devastated. Um, Sometimes for me, because I was social, so like I wasn't allowed to go see my friends, for example. Um, So mainly punishments like that. Sometimes the classic stand in the corner with your knees and your hands up. But I think that one was mostly for Zoe. It was the most naughty one as a kid. And yeah, I think mainly they tried to have a good balance between the physical punishment and the ones where it's like grounding, where you can't watch TV or you can't play games for a while. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
I don't know because my mom didn't know, but grounding is when you can't do something. If you're grounded from your phone, you can't use your phone. If you're grounded from hanging out with your friends, you can't go hang out with your friends. So that's that. When I was a young child, I would focus more on how words would make me feel. So I would also listen to DVDs, and I would like how I just imagined the scenarios in my head. So for me, words became something like paint a picture with your words. That's what I try to do sometimes. And with songs and poems, I like how they make you feel things, make you think of things in a very nice, convenient way, like with certain rhythm, with certain beats, not too many words, and in words that you can understand. I like it for it to be understandable, convenient, simple, because it does matter how you portray your message, but you have to make sure that more people can understand it than less. Only the pristine people who understand my vocabulary and language can understand this. I want as many people to understand, as many people to experience what I feel. And of course, we read books in American education, and read some of my parents' books, but I also read a lot of fiction, because for me it was about imaginative and understanding, and it was cool. So yes, my brother mentioned that for me, I would stand on my knees or lift my hands. That was mostly after I came back from Nigeria. So I think that's why I got it more. My brother was also, as he mentioned, more social. So that's what they used against him. But me and maybe my sister didn't really have that much people that we would hang out with on a as regularly as my brother would. Also, my brother got a phone. He was much younger than when I got a phone. So he got banned from his phone. It didn't happen to me. So for me, most often it would be also the slipper, scolding. Most of the time, her words would be enough. But there's a lot of teenage rebellion and stubbornness and lack of understanding and confusion. But for me, I would like to emphasize this, because I didn't say this during the whole presentation. You have to make a decision of who you want to be, what kind of person you want to be, and then you start working on yourself. And then look at yourself when you were a child. Is this the kind of person you want to be, the kind of character you want to have? I remember when I was 11, I looked in front of the mirror and I was like, who do I want to be? And I want to be a responsible person, I want to be a fun person, I want people to feel fear around me. And after that, I started working on myself. I wanted to be more responsible. I didn't want people to have more trouble or problems because of me. But that was when I was 11. Before then, I needed discipline. I need to understand things. Things needed to click in my mind. For that, it was just mostly just having a really stern household. Rules are important. It's very important. I'm not lenient. The parents are not lenient on some rules. They love you still, but order is important, and so is rules. So that's my take on your question. Pearl.
Yes. As a child, I would usually only read fiction. I kind of regret it now. I think I should have read more of the spiritual books that we had laying around. I think the more you read, the better it is. But I did read a lot, but I basically only read fiction. Because I really love stories. I really love just learning things through stories, imagining the whole scenario, the same way Zoe said. There's just so many different worlds that you can find through stories, and I was always really interested in them. And I generally have good retentions when I read things. It's easy for me to remember them, and that's why I really liked reading stories. And I read almost all the children's literature in the house. I was having a lot of fun like that. I think that a good way that I learned words was to read the books, especially those that were interesting to me, and then to look up them and look up some words in dictionaries. A word that when I was younger that I saw in a lot of books was hesitate. like to not want to do something for a while, or to stop for a moment before you do it. And for some reason I was really stubborn with that word, and I didn't want to look it up, and I was trying to figure out what it meant myself. And maybe that's a fun challenge for you too, to also find some words that you don't understand that you want to figure out, and then compare what you deduced to the dictionary definition. That was fun for me too. Later, when I was growing up and stuff, my siblings and my parents would ask me for the definitions of words, so I felt like I wanted to learn more and more words so I could be a proper dictionary for other people. And then now the SAT and stuff, so I need to learn more words in order to pass the English section of the SAT. So I've always been more of a language arts person, more of a creative person. I've always liked reading, and I love to learn new words. I really love that. I remember the new words I learned from certain types of media and stuff, and I'm really grateful for that. And right now I'm trying to improve my Russian vocabulary, because I go to an English school. I mostly consume English media, and because of that, my English is good for someone of my age, but my Russian is kind of like a fourth graders or something, by my point of view. So I just love languages, and I love developing myself through language and trying to challenge myself. As for punishments, yes, my parents would first of all give me warnings. Like when we were younger, they'd give us 3 warnings, and then they'd give us a punishment. That punishment would usually be spanking, that is with the slipper, or with, usually with a slipper, maybe with your hand sometimes, but the hand was rare. They would talk to us about what we did wrong. If we were stealing something like candy, then they would hide the candy, of course. And then if you did something wrong, or if you repeatedly lied or did something wrong, then you stand in the corner on your knees with your hands up from 15 to 30 minutes, usually. And then when we got older, I would have to feel sober about what I did and pray to God to forgive me after I was punished. So, yes. But also, my mom later started asking me, well, my mom and my dad would later start asking me or telling me that if I did this, I would get punished, or before they punished me, they would say, do you know why I'm punishing you? And then if I answered correctly, they'd say yes, and then they'd punish me. So yes, those are the punishments.
Also, when we were younger, my mom would call us all to her bed because we'd have prayers. And before that, she would say, is there anything bad that you did today? You can say it, I won't punish you. And we would say anything bad that we did, and we would talk about it. But that was when we were young. She does it now sometimes, but you know.
Well, if you're thinking about how to punish your own children, you just have to look through that yourself. Different punishments work differently on different children. A lot of people are against spanking as a whole. A lot of people are against any physical type of punishment. So you just have to understand your children, or understand the tendencies or type of child your child is. God has given that child to you, so I think that you'll be able to figure it out with God's help.
Thank you so much, guys, for your sincerity, and thank you so much for all the teachings. I would say I really have learned a lot today, and I'm also grateful to Dr. Sunday and Pastor Bosse. They've done really well. I really, like the previous caller said, it's very rare you see pastors' children being this excellent. It's very rare when you come to the other side, like the Africa where I'm coming from. It's very rare. So Pastor Sunday and Pastor Bosse have really showed an example by, proving to the world that, they've been pastors and being able to attend to all the people that they can, be able to reach. But not just having the time to attend to people like we all see other pastors do, and don't have time for their own children. But you guys are approved that they never wasted any of their time and their resources trying to be a blessing to people out there and not remembering their own family. So I'm really grateful to Pastor the DSA and Pastor Bosse for such a wonderful example. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Before you go,
have a lovely day.
I think Pearl has something to say.
people have said that we're quite exceptional for pastors' children. I think that's part of that is because our parents mostly didn't force stuff on us. They gave us a certain degree of freedom. Of course, they had certain boundaries. They didn't just let us like wander out into the forest with wolves. It was like having an open space where like a sheep or something can feed and have a pasture, but like the shepherd is still watching over them. I think that often pastors' children, they're kind of crushed by the expectations, by all the dogma, by all the religion, by all the things pushing down on them, with nobody considering their religion, their interests, their feelings, their individuality. But in our family, it's encouraged to develop your individuality. It's encouraged to pursue your own interests. And you're told that you can decide the way your life will be. I mean, when we were growing up, mom didn't tell us that we needed to become pastors when we grew up, or we needed to become this when we grew up. He said that you'll probably become great lawyers, you'll probably become great this, you'll probably become great this. Wow. And he always pointed out our talent, he always pointed out what we could work on. It wasn't like this type of regime, and it wasn't like this type of like, I don't know, cage. Sure, there was some protection. Sure, there was some things we weren't allowed to do, and some things in place to protect us. And those also really annoyed us as kids. But still, we had a lot of places to explore, a lot of chances to read what we wanted, to watch what we wanted, and to be interested in what we wanted. And I think that's part of why we turned out to be the people that we are today. Like Zoe said, we are individuals, and that's because our parents weren't afraid to let us express our individualities.
Thank you so much for calling. We appreciate your call.
Yes, we appreciate your call. Thank you, Ms. Topsy Gift.
That was
Thank
the
you so
last.
much.
Yes, PEREZ thanks you as well. That was the last call for today. This wraps up. This concludes our live stream.
Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you very much for joining in. PEREZ, have anything to say?
Well, we're grateful that you guys see us as such good kids, and we hope that we're able to help anyone today, and I hope the rest of you have a great rest of the day.